Shalom, shalom, Yasharallah. So I'll start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh in the Paleo Hebrew tongue. And I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Shalom and Barakatah, peace and blessings to you brothers and sisters that are tuning in or are going to tune in later to check this out, right? So this lesson is going to be called Courting in the End Times and Dealing with Unstable Marriages. Right, so I've been getting a lot of questions lately about courting, specifically many many questions about courting in the times that we're living in, and then also some questions dealing with marriages that aren't going according to the biblical standard of marriage. Right, shalom to the brother Jomar. It's always good to see you out. Shalom, shalom, Justin. Hope you're doing good, Ak. So I had a couple questions. I'll just read a couple of them that I'm gonna answer first, and then if anyone else has any questions, y'all can go ahead and ask them as we go along pertaining to this subject, right? To Sister Britt, shalom, shalom. Hope all is well with you, sis. So the first question that I got, and now some of these questions we've gone over before. I did a live on courting that was probably around 3 hours, maybe longer. Um, Maybe 7, 8, 9 months ago. And if y'all want to check that out, that was more pertaining to the whole courting process. But the questions that I've been getting lately, like in the past week, has been at least like a handful of sisters and one brother pertaining to how long should we court for now that we see that all of these things are coming to pass and the prophecies are happening quicker and quicker, right? Okay, Tawada. Yeah, Jomar. I don't know if you got to catch the last one, but the brother Justin was posting them up last time. If y'all wanna, maybe I can give like each one of y'all a precept or something like that, right? That would be helpful, and that would speed up the process. As a matter of fact, y'all bear with me one moment. I'm gonna get my I left my Bible on the table. Okay, Salaki, I'm back. So a couple of the questions that I got, I wrote down like a handful of them. One of them, a sister had asked, "Why should we be married?" Right, especially in these times, it's a very being prudent and looking at the things that are coming. That's definitely a good question. One of them was how long should we court for now that we see we're living in evil times? And one sister even asked, is courting like the process of courting even biblical, right? Another sister asked, can you be married after you've already been married, right? Which we'll get to that one as well. And then another brother had asked, he had a situation where his wife basically, they knew that they were married according to the truth, and she ended up leaving, right? Invictus 47, Shalom, right? Okay, Tawada to the brother Jomar, right? So I'm gonna answer these first few questions, and if anybody has any questions as we go along, like I said, we'll go ahead and get some scriptures to answer these questions, right? So if y'all could pull up First Corinthians 14:40, one of my favorites, right? If you want to get that, Justin, and then Jomar, if you could get Sirach 6 and 7, Baba Kashar. Eloy Espinosa, Shalom. Shalom. Hope all is well with you and your house. So yeah, we're gonna start in First Corinthians 14:40. We're just gonna lay out three verses real quick when it comes to the courting process, and we're gonna see how every situation, no matter who I give counseling to, or I wouldn't say advice because it's not my own advice. Everything's coming from the scriptures. It's the Most High's advice, the Most High's counsel. Every person that I counsel with, I let them know that there's never a set or strict answer that you can give when it comes to like a marriage or when it comes to a courting process, because every situation is different and it's unique in its own way, right? Um, Jomar, if you could also give me Sirach 37 and 12, Bawa Kashal, and the water for posting those up real quick, both you brothers. Um, so like I was saying, everything, because I get a lot of questions um, through Instagram and even through email pertaining to marriages or courting, right? And which is understandable. Brothers and sisters coming into the truth fairly new, and they want to know certain things. But you have to understand, when you ask questions, you have to have the context behind everything, right? You have to have the context behind the situation. So everything is, of course, we all try to follow the scriptures to the best of our ability, but we have to have like both sides of the story and know the context in it, right? So when it comes to, just to set the ground, when it comes to courting, these three verses right here all need to be applied no matter what. So this is First Corinthians 14 and 40. Let all things be done decently and in order, right? Decently and in order. And of course, this can be applied to everything in your life, um, whether it be courting, whether it be marriage, whether it be friendships, whether it be even in the scriptures, right? Like some brothers will come to me and they'll be like, can you send me some scriptures about reincarnation? Can you send me some scriptures about polygamy? Can you send me scriptures about random things like this, right? And what I always tell them is the first thing you need to do is get the milk, right? You need to learn your Hawashai, you need to learn the law so you can start keeping them. You need to get that and build up your faith. So anything in life, all things need to be done decently and in order, and especially with courting. Now, keep in mind though, like I said, every situation is unique in its own. And that doesn't mean that the order that works for you is going to be the order that works for somebody else, right? The Sirach 6 and 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first and be not hasty to credit him, right? So when you're dealing with courting or with just a friendship, but in this context, dealing with courting, you don't want to be hasty. You don't want to be quick to credit somebody, right? Because we know a man will say anything. A man that's in the world, that's not in the spirit, will say anything to get what a man wants, which is to get in the sister's pants, right? Or dress or skirt if you're in the truth, right? So if you're gonna get a friend, if you're gonna court somebody, if you're gonna marry somebody, especially, because remember, marriage is for life, right? And we'll go over that a little later, because a brother had asked about if he can leave a woman for being wicked or doing things like that, right? Marriage is supposed to be for life. The only, according to Yahushai, the only grounds for marriage biblically is for the cause of fornication. If a woman cheats on you, then you have the option to divorce her, right? Anything other than that, you are not supposed to divorce her. And she is not supposed to divorce you either. She is bound to you for life, right? So don't be hasty to credit someone. So then the next one is Shalom Kingdom Minded. Yeah, long time no see. I haven't talked to you in a while, Lock. That's the brother that lives in Houston. I believe Justin, the brother Justin that just posted the verse, lives in Houston too. Maybe y'all could link up or something, right? Um, so this is Sirach 37 and 12. But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahweh, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. So let all things be done decently and in order. Prove the person first, whether it be a woman or a man in a courting situation. You have to prove them first, and don't be hasty to credit them. And you have to prove that it is, especially for you sisters, that it is a godly man, right? Whom you know, not who you think, not who you think keeps the commandments, right? Not who you assume keeps the commandments, not someone who said, "Oh yeah, I'll start keeping them for you." Because to be honest with y'all, that's over. Let's see, I've been in the truth about 5 years, so maybe like the last 2 3 years, really, that I've been giving courting advice and marriage advice, and I'll tell you this: the number one cause for women and for men that their marriage doesn't work is because they were hasty and they jumped into it, and they just believed the other person was going to just somehow magically start following the Most High to the best of their ability and just magically be a good head and just magically start being a good woman, right? So being hasty. So this says, "Be thou continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahweh, whose mind is according to thy mind." And if y'all caught the last slide we did, it was the number one reason marriages don't work. And the reason was because they are not of one mind, right? That's the number one reason marriages don't work, because one of them's going hard for the Most High and the other one's either not following it or they're half-assing it, they're lukewarm, right? And then can two walk together except they be agreed? No, right? So the brother said, "I got a question, Khan. As soon as we're done, but you want to ask it right now. If it pertains to this subject and you want to ask it right now, I could go ahead and answer. If it's something else, then we'll go ahead and wait to the end." So Eloy Khan, all praise to the Most High. And hey, shalom, sis, shalom. Hope all is well with you in your house. So once you know these two things, right? And the water, so Amos 3:3, can two walk together except they be agreed, right? No, they cannot walk together unless they are agreed, right? And that's why I posted when was it, yesterday maybe, in Sirach. And let me tell you, when certain verses, as a matter of fact, if one of y'all could get it, Sirach 13 and 16, Sirach 13 and 16, right? When a certain verse hits a nerve, when a lot of people don't like it, right? Or when it hits a nerve, when I'll be getting messages about it, like, "Damn, this one really convicted me." You know what I mean? And it's not me. It's always, of course, the Most High. Isaiah 55:10. He's going to send out his word, and it's going to accomplish what he wants to accomplish, right? Khan, the water. So this says, "All flesh consorteth the water." I'll go ahead and like go in between one Jomar, one Justin, just so we won't be double posting them like that from now on. But the water, both of y'all. So all flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like, right? You have to understand that, I don't know if any of y'all been to jail before, right? But when you go to jail, who hangs out with who? You got the so-called Mexicans with the Mexicans, right? You got the so-called blacks with the blacks. You got the so-called white boys with the white boys. Why? Because all flesh consorts according to their kind, right? And a man will cleave to his like. It's the same thing in this truth, whether you're really in the truth, right? Or whether you're not really in the truth. If you're lukewarm in this truth, right? The person that you pick and that you court and that you are trying to be with, that is you subconsciously showing who you are like, right? What kind of person you are. Because I know some people that hang out together that claim to be in the truth, that still go clubbing and go drinking and do all this stuff, and they stay to themselves. Then you got some brothers that are real I guess, like you would say, cutting edge or sharp edge, real clean in this thing, and they stay together. You have people that always cleave to their kind. So the person that you pick, you need to understand the person that you are attracted to, and not just in a physical way, right? But the people that you're attracted to is the kind of person that you really are, right? So now if I could get actually let's jump to the next question. So the next question was, and I actually got it from two sisters on Instagram just this week, and then I actually was had a study with a couple other sisters on this topic last week, right? So the question that the sister asked on Instagram was, how long should we court for, right? Seeing that we're living in all these evil times, Jacob's troubles coming, all of these things, right? So before, or actually, if y'all want to get, man, we're gonna have to read the whole chapter basically. I'm just gonna go ahead and read 1 Samuel 25 real quick and Genesis 29. I'm gonna read two different accounts of people getting married, right? I'm gonna read the account of David getting a wife, and then of course of Jacob, which y'all may be familiar with, right? Y'all may be familiar with. So I'm gonna go. I'll go to Genesis first since it came. But let me ask y'all that. What do y'all think? How long is a good period of time to court for? To court for? And in my last video, I know I said up to a year, right? In the video that I did on courting previously, I said up to a year because you can see if they're keeping the holy days at least for a whole year, right? And I believe I said something to the effect of it's hard to keep up a front. It's hard to keep up a front the longer you go. You know what I mean? If somebody is pretending to be holy, if somebody's pretending to be this or that, the longer you're around them, the harder it's going to be to keep that front up, right? So Britt said 6 months to a year, maybe. Khan, I believe that's exactly what I said in my last video. 6 months to a year, maybe, right? But you have to understand now, going back to, that's why I brought out these three verses first, right? That all things be done decently and in order, right? This is talking about the order. This is talking about doing it decently, right? Then the next one is, if thou would get us a friend, prove him first. Be not hasty to credit him, right? Don't be hasty to credit someone or prove somebody or just believe somebody. And this one is be continually with the godly man who you know to keep the commandments, right? So you have to know that they're keeping the commandments. So the sister said, until the Ruach approves through both people. Khan, that's a good one too as well, sis. And we're gonna see that in one of the scriptures. We'll actually go to Genesis, what is it? 24, I believe, where Isaac and Rebecca ended up getting together, right? And that was all through the spirit as well. Brother Jomar said you can only fake the funk for so long. Pretending to be someone, you will eventually crack. Khan, right? You can only fake it for so long. Exactly. So that's why it's good not to be hasty to prove somebody, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go to Genesis chapter 29. We're just going to read a couple accounts of marriage, right? A couple accounts, because even the way we're in the truth now, or knowing of the truth now, we have to understand that biblically, in I hate to say Bible times because we're still living in Bible times, but like Old Testament, I don't even like saying that too, right? Because it's all the Bibles. It shouldn't be Old Testament, New Testament. They go hand in hand. But in these times, it wasn't the way that we're doing it now, right? So this is Genesis chapter 29, and I'm probably going to read about 20 verses. So I'm going to go through it kind of quickly, but then also stop on the verses, some verses to make points, right? The sister Janet said Most High will bring darkness into the light as well. Khan, everything done in the dark will be brought to the light, right? That was one of my favorite scriptures coming into this truth, right? So everything done in the dark, but here's the problem, right? The darkness is going to be brought to the light, but if you're too hasty to credit somebody, right? And this is what I've seen time and time and time again. And it's sad to see. I've talked with my rib about it many times. It's sad to see that so many relationships start off as relationships, courtships, whatever you want to call it. They're too hasty, and they get married, and then the darkness comes to the light, right? and then it's too late because a woman's bound by law, right? And no, one of the other questions was if you can marry again, which we're gonna deal with that after this one as well, right? So this is Genesis chapter 29, and I'm just gonna start at the beginning of the chapter, right? Genesis 29 and 1. Genesis 29 and 1, it says, Then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field. And lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered. And they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in his place. And Jacob said unto them, My brethren, whence be ye? And they said, Of Haran are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. And he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep, and go and feed them. And they said, We cannot, until all the flocks be gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. Right? So Jacob came to the well of Haran, right? And he's about to meet Rachel, which will later on be his wife, right? So this is verse 9. And while he yet spake with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father, right? So basically, he's meeting Rachel, which is later on going to become his wife, right? So I'm going to keep going. And it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. So now Jacob is living with Laban. He already stayed with him for a whole month, right? And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall be thy wages? Right? So he's saying, You're working for me for a whole month already, right? Well, what do you want to get? How do you want to get paid? And Laban had 2 daughters. This is verse 16, Salakia. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. Right? So if you look up that term, tender-eyed, I believe it's in the NLT, because I like to look up different terms in different translations, and also in the Blue Letter. It says her eye had no sparkle. And some of them it says she wasn't good looking, and some of them it says she was ugly, right? So it was comparing Rachel to Leah. 17. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy younger daughter. Right? So Jacob just told Laban, right? He told Laban that he would work 7 years if he gave him Rachel, his younger daughter, to marry him, right? Verse 19. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her. Right? So Rachel's dad, Laban, said, You know what? It's better if I give her to you to marry than to somebody else. Right? So go ahead, work with me, and then I'll give her unto you. Right? So Jacob worked the 7 years, and it flew by, right? Why? Because it said for the love he had for her. He really loved her, right? 21. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. Right? So he said, give me my wife, because you have to understand in those times when you promised a woman to a man, that's basically his wife already, right? All he has to do is pay the dowry, which back then you would literally pay a man for his daughter, right? Because like in verse, what was it? Verse 9, it says, and while he yet spake with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them, right? So back in the days, having a daughter was a very valuable thing because they were actually productive, right? They weren't idle and busybodies and just going house to house like it talks about in First Timothy the 5th chapter, which I'll actually get to that in one of the other questions that a sister had asked, right? They were actually productive back in those days. Rachel was keeping her father's sheep. She would go out and make sure they got water. She would keep them, right? So going back down to 21, it says, and Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her, so that they can consummate the marriage, right? Because a marriage isn't valid until it's consummated. For those of you who don't know, that means once they have sex, right? Verse 22. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast, right? So some people, I've heard certain Israelites say like it's wicked or it's bad if you have like a marriage, how would you call it, like a ceremony, I guess, or you have like a little party. Like some people have been, um I guess you could say that their minds have been taught to any type of party is bad. But Yahushua was out of marriage, right? He turned water into wine, because back then that would have been it would have been a disgrace to that family to run out of wine when their children are getting married, right? So it's not wicked, it's not bad to have some type of reception or a little gathering, right? Like it says here, and Laban gathered, verse 22, and Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. 23, and it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him, and he went in unto her, right? So Laban pulled a fast one on Jacob, right? They had a feast, and you know when you have feasts, you drink some wine, get merry, right? And I don't know if y'all have ever drank wine. Wine is a lot. The volume is thicker, right? You can't drink as much as like beer or something like that. Which, like personally, I don't drink at all. Um, Beer or alcohol stuff like that, just wine. So they were drinking and stuff, and came in the evening, in the nighttime, that he took Leah, the other daughter, the older daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. Right. So you have to understand there was no electricity back then, things like that. He didn't even know which daughter it was. 24. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for a handmaid. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? Right? So he's saying, like, man, you tricked me. Why'd you do this to me? Now I'm married to your older daughter, but you promised me your younger daughter, Rachel. Right? 26. And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Right? So that was an actual thing. It was like a disgrace or a sad thing if the older, or Salakia, if the younger gets married before the older, right? So then 27, fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me, yet 7 other years. So now Laban said, look, work 7 more years, and then I'll give you Rachel, the younger daughter, right? And I guess we'll stop on this next verse. It's verse 28. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. Right? So this is one example, right? And let's go to let's go to Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, real quick. If you want to pull up Let me see. Jomar, if you could pull up Ecclesiastes 3:1 through, I believe, 8. Baba Kashaw, Baba Kashaw. And let me get to these comments real quick. um, so the brother said, "What's the best way to find the right sister to court?" What's the okay? I'll get to that question right after this. Then, right after this, because we're gonna deal with how long you should court first, and then I'm gonna come back to that question. All right. Eloy said 1 year. Give it 6 months, and the real person will come out little by little. Khan. I agree with you. And of course, there's certain how would you say? I would generally say that's the rule, 6 months to a year. But of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean when it comes to the laws of the Most High, things like that. Because as you're gonna see here, there's no perfect timeline where it says court them for this long, right? But there are precepts to go along with that, and we're gonna get to that in just a second. Um, Britt said, "Yes, I agree. Proving for 6 months at least." Con. That seems to be the majority of people saying six months to a year, right? Which I agree with. But again, there's always exceptions to that, which we're gonna go over right now. So this is Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, including courting. Okay, there's a season for it and there's a purpose for it. Verse 2, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Right? So another thing I want to say real quick is there was a sister and there was a brother that were talking or asking about the same general question as to when you court, like they were feeling like you'll be stuck, kind of like you're stuck once you're courting. You kind of have to marry them, but no, that's not the case, right? When you're courting somebody, it's to see if you are going to marry them. There's no shame, or there shouldn't be no grudges, no hate, nothing like that. If you end up figuring out, okay, nah, this ain't gonna work, right? The courting process is to figure out if it's gonna work out or not. A long time ago, um, I made a post and it said basically you're either dating to fornicate or you're courting to marry, right? And I really like to keep it like that. You're courting to marry, right? So if you don't see that person being able to be with that person, they can't provide for you according to the word, then you cut it off, right? Which I've personally done as well. So a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. And all of these types of things are things you'll see throughout the courting process, right? Somebody might, you'll be building it up, and then maybe the Most High just breaks it down. All right, no, this ain't gonna work. This ain't the person, right? There's gonna be a time that you're gonna have to kill your past. Things are gonna come up in the past, like from your past, right? Well, this, that, and the other, and you're gonna have to kill that past. You're gonna have to kill those negative tendencies or habits or things that you've picked up throughout your life, right? A time to weep and a time to laugh. When you're getting to know somebody, courting them, right? If you're courting for a lengthy period of time, you're gonna have laughs. You might even have some times where you cry, telling them certain things, right, sisters? A time to mourn and a time to dance. So there's gonna be some happy times, be some not so happy times. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. There's gonna be times where you need to embrace them. There's gonna be times where, you know what, let me step back and really think about things, right? A time to get and a time to lose. You might end up getting a husband, you might end up getting a wife. You might end up losing them because that's not who the Most High wants you with. A time to keep and a time to cast away. Same concept. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak, right? This is also very important. Going through a courting process, unless you've known the person for an extended period of time, like There's certain people that have been friends, for example, right? That would definitely be one of the exceptions to the rule, I would say, right? If you've known somebody, let's say you've been in the truth 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, however long, and you've known a brother or you've known a sister for a certain period of time, well, that's going to cut back the time of getting to know each other, right? If you know, going back to the first verses that we brought out, right? Going back to Sirach 37 and 12, right? It says, be continually with a godly man whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahweh, right? If you've known a brother, for example, for you sisters, right? If you've known a brother, um, whether it be personally or through social media, whatever the case, for a few years, and you know he's been keeping the feast days, you know he keeps Sabbath, you know he's been doing all these things, right? That's going to cut back on some of the time because you already know him to keep the commandments, right? You don't have to be Salakia. If you've already proven him over the years and he's been teaching you, you've been studying with him, you ask him questions, hey brother, what about this? What about this topic? And he's got all these precepts for you, breaking the scriptures down for you, things of that nature. It wouldn't be hasty to credit him if you've already known him and you've already proved him through time, right? So that's one of the exceptions to the rules, I would say, right? A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. Also, throughout the courting process, you're going to realize, as I have throughout the years, there's times that you need to keep silent. Times when people just need to talk and they don't really need you to talk back. All they need is you to hear, right? Especially with women. Then also there's a time to keep silent. If you get upset about something, you should never speak off of emotion, right? You should never speak off of emotion because you're going to say something that can't be taken back, right? So there's a time to keep silence and then gather your spirit back together, control your emotions, control your spirit, and then speak. Verse 8, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace, right? So saying all that to say, in the courting process, we just saw Jacob, he waited 14 years for Rachel, right? Now, I would never recommend or tell a brother, yeah, maybe court for 7 years, maybe another 7 if it doesn't work out. With all the prophecies that are coming to pass, of course, we don't know when the end is coming, but we know by keeping watch and seeing all these prophecies come to pass that it's getting closer and closer and closer, right? So that being said, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose. There is a season for you, right? There's a season for the brother Joma. There's a season for another brother, for the brother Justin. There's a season for the brother Eloy. Let me see, Britt, Janet. Everybody has a different season when it comes to courting. And just giving examples, I don't know who's married, who's not married, right? There's a different season, and just because it's a different timing for you, it may be different for you compared to somebody else. It can still be done decently and in order, right? Let all things be done decently and in order. So now I'm going to go to, let me see, what is it? 1 Samuel 25. 1 Samuel 25. All right, so we're going to read about, for those of y'all who know about Abigail and Nabal, there was a woman named Abigail. And you know what? I'm not even going to give y'all a backstory. For those of y'all who don't know, who have never read the account, the brother said refund, refund. And it's funny that you say that actually, because there's a scripture. Jomar, if you could get, I believe it's Deuteronomy 22:13, Baba Kashaw. Deuteronomy 22:13. Because the brother said refund, right? And it's true. They actually used to do that. Back in the days, this is what most women and even men but women in particular don't understand, right? Back in the days, it was so different in the courting and the marriage process that you wouldn't even be accepted back then by men if you weren't a virgin, right? Nowadays, it's what, more than 99% for sure of women when they get married are not virgins, right? Or over 90% for sure, right? Salaki, if you could get me the next verse as well. So this is Deuteronomy 22 and 13. I'm gonna go to it too. Deuteronomy 22 and 13. The water. It says, if a man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her and give occasions of speech against her and bring up an evil name upon her and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Right? So back in the days, when you pay a dowry, right? You paid a man, however it may be, whether it be goats, whether it be I'm gonna work 7 years for you, like Jacob did, whether it be I'm gonna give you so many shekels of silver, whatever the case may be. If she was not found to be a maid, meaning a virgin, if you look that up in the Hebrew, if he found out when they consummate the marriage she wasn't a virgin, right? Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate, right? So they would take, back in the days, they would have the marriage chamber, which you can read about in all throughout the scriptures. In the law, you can read about it in Tobit, where Tobias got married, right? And the sheets would have to have blood on them to prove that the woman was indeed a maid or a damsel, a virgin, right? Which we know as a virgin, right? So back then, like the brother said here, refund, they would actually do this. They would go to the elders, and if she wasn't a virgin, they would try and go and get a refund, right? I paid so much. She was supposed to be a virgin. Um, I can't remember who it was. I think it may have been the brother Naquam from WFI. I liked how he had put it one time. He said, if I went to go buy a brand new car and you expect me to pay full price, and I go pay full price, and then the car's got 10, 20, 50,000 miles on it, of course I'm gonna be mad and I'm gonna try and get a refund, right? But not to go off topic, but that's what like the brother said, refund, right? So I'm gonna go back to 1 Samuel 25. So going back to how long should you court for is different for everybody. We read Jacob, that in that account he waited 14 years. Now let's see what happened with David, right? So this is I'm gonna start from the top. And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him and buried him in his house at Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in Maon whose possessions were in Carmel, and the man was very great. And he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail. And she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. Right? So that I read 1 Samuel 25 up to verse 3. So there's a man named Nabal. He's a rich man. He's got thousands of sheep, 1,000 goats. Right? His wife's name's Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding. Okay? When I tell brothers, when brothers ask me what should I look for in a sister and a wife, things of this nature, number one is obviously it's really a couple of things that go together. They go hand in hand: humility and the ability to be taught, right? And you can only have the ability to be taught by being humble and being obedient to the Most High through the husband, right? Meaning if you find a woman and she is teachable, right? She has a good understanding, knowing, okay, I need to be taught, right? It's like the scriptures say, if any woman will learn anything, let her ask her husband at home, right? Having a husband, which that's going to go into one of the questions that the sister asked, why should we be married? I'll hit that one next, right? But anyways, going back to this, Abigail was a woman of good understanding, but her husband was wicked, as we're gonna learn as we keep reading, right? Verse 4. And David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. And David sent out 10 young men, and David said unto the young men, get you up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. Right? So David sends 10 men. He says, greet him in my name. Tell him King David sent you, this, that, and the other, right? Verse 6. And thus shall ye say to him that liveth in prosperity, peace both to thee, and peace be to thine house, and peace be unto all that thou hast. Right? So, however you pronounce it, whether you say shalom, whether you say shalom, whether you say shalom, this is what David was saying. He sent his servants and said, go talk to this man who's a great man. When it comes to wealth, right? Tell him King David sent us, and he said, shalom to your house, shalom to you, shalom to all that you have. Right? He was coming in peace. Okay, verse 7. And now I have heard that thou hast shearers. Now thy shepherds which were with us, we hurt them not, neither was there aught missing unto them all the while they were in Carmel. Right? So David and his men were in Carmel, and he sent them to tell Nabal, peace to you, and we didn't hurt your men, and we didn't steal nothing from them. Right? When they were here with us in Carmel. Verse 8. Ask thy young men, and they will show thee. Wherefore, let the young men find favor in thine eyes, for we come in a good day. Give, I pray thee, whatsoever cometh to thine hand unto thy servants and to thy son David. And when David's young men came, they spake to Nabal according to all those words in the name of David and ceased. Right? So basically what happened was David sent these men to Nabal, and they said, hey, we're in your land where the sheep are, and we didn't hurt them, nothing. And as you're going to see as we keep reading down, David's men were basically protecting these men as they were shearing the sheep and working for Nabal. Right? So David told him, peace be to you. Can you send us whatever you have? Like some food, some water, whatever the case may be. Right? Verse 10. And Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed for my shearers and give it unto men whom I know not whence they be? Right? So basically, he just insulted David to his servants. Right? He said, who's David? Who's King David? When he clearly knew who King David was. And you're going to see later on that he didn't know who he was. He was just trying to insult the man, right? So he said, why am I going to give him any water? Why am I going to give him anything, right? So verse 12. So David's young men turned their way and went again and came and told him all those sayings. And David said unto his men, gird you on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword. And David also girded on his sword. And there went up after David about 400 men, and 200 abode by the stuff. Right? So David told all his men, he told 400 of his men, he said, gird yourselves up, get your swords ready, let's go. And he left 200 men with their stuff. Right? Hey, shalom to the brother Barlos Rivers. Shalom. Hope all is good with you in your house. So right now we're in 1 Samuel 22, Salakia 25, right? And we're just reading an account of how long David, or how long different examples people waited before getting married, right? So what happened right now is David's mad, obviously. He just got insulted by Nabal. He said, everyone gird on your swords. We're going to go after Nabal, right? Verse 14. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, Behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he railed on them. Right? So railed on them, if you look it up in the Hebrew right here in the 1611, it says shamed, right? He tried to shame them. He was talking down on them. If you look it up, it says cursing people, using bad language against people, right? So this is what Nabal did to David. And one of the servants of Nabal told Abigail, told Nabal's wife, hey, he did this to David, right? He went and saluted. He had his men come salute Nabal, and he tried to shame him. He cussed them out, right? Verse 15. But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt. Neither missed we anything as long as we were conversant with him when we were in the fields. They were a wall unto us by night and day, all the while we were with them keeping sheep. So again, he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, right? And when they were keeping them in the fields, David and his 600 men were right there. And like the servant said, he said, hey, David and his men were like a wall to us, right? Imagine having a big old army right next to you when you're in the field. Nobody's gonna mess with you, right? Because you got this big old army right next to you. So the servant is telling Abigail this. And he's saying, hey, they were basically protecting us. They were cool with us. They didn't steal nothing. They didn't kill none of us. And then Nabal went and railed on them, right? So verse 17. Now therefore know and consider what thou wilt do, for evil is determined against our master and against all his household. For he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him. Right? So when you look into that Belial, it's basically another idol or false god, but basically we could say a son of Satan, right? And the servant is saying, hey, look, Abigail, he did this, and now evil is determined against him and his whole house. Her being his wife, meaning evil is determined against you too, right? So verse 18, then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine and 5 sheep ready dressed and 5 measures of parched corn and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs and laid them on asses. Right? So she got some donkeys, she got 200 loaves of bread, she got some wine, she got sheep, she got parched corn, she got clusters of raisins, she got 200 cakes of figs, 200 basically like those fig bars, right? But probably bigger. And she took off, right? 19. And she said unto her servants, go on before me, behold, I come after you. But she told not her husband Nabal. And it was so, as she rode on the ass, that she came down by the covert of the hill, and behold, David and his men came down against her, and she met them. So she rode off. She didn't even tell her husband what was going on, right? And she went and she saw David. Verse 21. Now David had said, surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow hath in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him, and he hath requited me evil for good. Right? So David's saying, man, I was basically protecting this. We were protecting him. He's not missing nothing. I did it in vain. That's what David said. Right? I did this. Surely I did this in vain. He's requiting me evil for good. He's repaying me evil for all the good that I did him. So let's keep going. 22. So and more also do the Most High unto the enemies of David, if I leave of all that pertain to him by the morning light any that pisseth against the wall. So he's saying by the morning light, there ain't gonna be nobody left, not even someone pissing at the wall, right? He's gonna kill everybody. Verse 23. And when Abigail saw David, she hasted and lighted off the ass and fell before David on her face and bowed herself down to the ground. So as soon as she saw David, she hasted, she was quick, she jumped off the donkey, right? She fell to her face, a sign of humility, and bowed herself down to the ground in front of David. And remember, this is a married woman, right? And fell at his feet and said, upon me My Lord, upon me let this iniquity be, and let thine handmaid, I pray thee, speak in thine audience, and hear the words of thine handmaid. So now, when most women, remember in the beginning it said she was a woman of great understanding, or she had a good understanding, right? Most women, when they're emotional, what do they start doing? They start talking and talking and talking, right? They'll go off. Most of that is what most women will do. Why? Because they have a little understanding, right? That's why the word says that a silent mind, or a silent woman is of great price in the eyes of the Most High, in the eyes of a man that has wisdom, right? So she didn't just start yelling, "Oh, please, man, don't kill Nabal, don't this, don't that." What did she do? She fell to his feet, right? And then she said, "I pray thee," which is basically like saying, "I beg you, let me speak and hear what I have to say," right? Then 25, let not my Lord, I pray thee, regard this man of Belial, even Nabal. She said, don't regard him, right? Don't lay it to heart what he did, what he said. For as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. So if you look up that name Nabal, it actually means foolish, right? Someone named their son foolish, right? Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, thine handmaid, saw not the young men of my Lord whom thou didst send. So she said, look, I didn't see what happened, but I know about it. But don't regard what Nabal said, right? How he insulted you. Verse 26. Now therefore, my Lord, as Yahweh liveth, and as thy soul liveth, seeing Yahweh hath withholden thee from coming to shed blood, and from avenging thyself with thine own hand, now let thine enemies and they that seek evil to my Lord be as Nabal. So she's basically saying, look, the Most High withheld you from coming to shed blood, because she showed up in the perfect moment, right? So she's saying not to shed blood on Nabal, right? Verse 27, and now this blessing which thine handmaid hath brought unto my Lord, speaking of David, let it even be given unto the young men that follow my Lord. Again, calling David Lord, calling him Adawan, right? Which is basically like saying master, or saying it's a title of respect, of honor, right? 28, I pray thee, forgive the trespass of thine handmaid, for Yahweh will certainly make my Lord a sure house, because my Lord fighteth the battles of Yahweh, and evil hath not been found in thee all thy days. Right? So what is Abigail saying here? She's saying she obviously knows who David is. Not only does she know who he is, she's saying you fight Yahweh's battles, right? She's saying that the Most High, that Yahweh is going to make your house a sure house, right? The Most High is going to be with you in your house. This is what she's telling him, right? She's basically saying he's a godly man. She even said, this is verse 28 for those of y'all who are following along. She said, and evil has not been found in thee all thy days. She's saying he is a man whom she knows to keep the commandments of Yahweh, right? So going back, let me see if the comment's still there. At the beginning, we read Sirach 37 and 12, right? Right here. This is Sirach 37 and 12. Be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahweh, right? So obviously, Abigail's husband, Nabal, he's a foolish man. He's a man of Belial. He's a man of Satan, right? But she's saying, David, you're a man of the Most High. You're a man that I know to keep the commandments of Yahweh, right? So I'm going to keep going. This is verse, you'll see why this is important in just a minute. So verse 29, yet a man is risen to pursue thee and to seek thy soul. But the soul of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life with Yahweh thy God. And the souls of thine enemies, them shall he sling out as out the as out of the middle of a sling. So she said, there's people that are rising up against you, David, but guess what? You're going to be bound in the bundle of life with Yahweh. He's going to protect you, right? And the souls of your enemies, they're going to be slung out like if they were slung out from a sling. In other words, she's saying, and she knows that David is a godly man, that the Most High is with him, that he keeps the commands, and anybody who rises up against him, the Most High is going to deal with them, right? So this is verse 30. And it shall come to pass when Yahweh shall have done to my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning thee, and shall have appointed thee ruler over Israel, that this shall be no grief unto thee, nor offense of heart unto my Lord, either that thou hast shed blood causeless, or that my Lord hath avenged himself. But when Yahweh shall have dealt well with my Lord, then remember thine handmaid. Right? So in 30, she said, in 29 and 30, she told David, you're a man of the Most High, right? Any of your enemies, they're going to be dealt with by the Most High. And then in verse 30, she said, you're going to be, once you become appointed the ruler of Israel, right? Because David first became the king of Judah, right? And one of Saul's sons was the king of all the rest of Israel until David took kingship of the whole Israel. So he was just the king of Judah first, right? She said, once you become the king of all, you're going to become the king of all Israel, right? And this is not going to be no grief to you. It's not going to offend your heart in any way, right? That you didn't avenge yourself, that you didn't go and kill Nabal and all his house and all his men, right? And then she said, when that happens, when the Most High avenges you, then remember thine handmaid, at the end of verse 31. 32, and David said to Abigail, blessed be Yahweh, God of Israel, which sent thee this day to meet me. So I don't know if any of y'all, I'm pretty sure some of y'all are following me on Instagram. I know there's a few brothers that only follow me through YouTube because they don't have Instagram. But I really like what David says this, when he says this. He says this multiple times all throughout the scriptures. He says, blessed be Yahweh, right? I know a lot of people say all praise to the Most High. I just like the way that sounds. Blessed be Yahweh, God of Israel, which sent thee this day to meet me. And blessed be thy advice, and blessed be thou, which thou hast kept me this day from coming to shed blood, and from avenging myself with mine own hand. So David said, you know what? Thank you, Yahweh. And I thank him for using you. Blessed be you, Abigail, because you just stopped me from sinning. Because vengeance belongs to the Most High, right? Vengeance belongs to the Most High. So David was about to take vengeance into his own hands. So let's see what happens when he trusted in the Most High. For in very deed, as Yahweh, God of Israel, liveth, which hath kept me back from hurting thee, except thou hadst hasted to come to meet me, surely there had not been left unto Nabal by the morning light any that pisseth against the wall. Right? So he said, it's a good thing the Most High sent you, and you came and you hasted out here because I was about to go kill everybody by the morning. You even would have killed her, the whole house, everybody would have been dead. Right? 35. So David received of her hand that which she had brought him, and said unto her, go up in peace to thine house. See, I have hearkened to thy voice, and have accepted thy person. So David said, you know what? I received your gifts. I received the bottles of wine, the 200 loaves of bread you brought, the 5 sheep, the parched corn, the hundreds of clusters of raisins, the 200 fig cakes. I receive it, and I'm going to listen to you, and I accept you, and I'm not going to do harm to your house. Right? So verse 36, and Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunken. So now Nabal's having a feast, right? He just insulted one of the most powerful men. When you read through the scriptures and you read about King David and even King Saul before him, right? The people would say, oh, here's King Saul who killed his thousands. And then they would say, oh, and here's David who's killed his tens of thousands. David was a very mighty man, right? So Nabal's over here feeling with his chest puffed up. He's got them alcohol muscles, right? It says he was having a big feast and they were drinking. He was drunk, right? So 36, it says, and Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunken. Wherefore she told him nothing, less or more, until the morning light. So she didn't tell him what he did, right? So Nabal's thinking, man, I just insulted King David. He ain't gonna do nothing, right? He just had a feast. Abigail didn't tell him nothing because he was drunk. Verse 37. But it came to pass in the morning when the wine was gone out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became as a stone, right? He became as a stone. So now there's brothers that break this down in different ways. Some say, he certain things happen. But when you really think about it, I know personally people, they've had strokes, they can't move after that, right? It's like their heart dies within them. And then 38, and it came to pass about 10 days after that Yahweh smote Nabal that he died. So 10 days later, he died, right? Salakia. So 39. So now we're going to get to the point, right? Getting back to the point of the whole courting process. And when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be Yahweh, that hath pleaded the cause of my reproach meaning my shame, right? From the hand of Nabal, and hath kept his servant from evil. So he's saying, Blessed be Yahweh, because look, he just killed Nabal. He kept me from evil, from avenging myself, right? For Yahweh hath returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head. And David sent and communed with Abigail to take her to him to wife, right? So Nabal just died, right? Nabal just died. And now David sent to get Abigail so she could be his wife, right? So the sister said, pride goes before destruction. Calm. Pride goes before destruction. A haughty spirit before a fall, right? The brother Jomar said David understood Yahweh utilizing her to prevent him from sinning. Khan. That's exactly what happened, right? That's exactly what he's saying. This shows his ability to be humble before the Most High and his way to correct his path and remind him vengeance doesn't belong to him. Khan. Exactly, right? That's beautifully put, Ak. So I'm going to keep going. Verse 40. And when the servants of David were come to Abigail to Carmel, they spake unto her, saying, David sent us unto thee to take thee to him to wife. Right? So the servants of David went to Abigail and they said, Hey, David sent us to get you for you to be his wife. Right? Verse 41. So let's see what she did, right? Did she, okay, let's go through a courting process. Let's wait around. Let's see how this goes. Let me pray about it. Let me think about it. Let's see what she did. Verse 41. And she arose and bowed herself on her face to the earth and said, Behold, let thine handmaid be a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my Lord. Again, showing humility, right? And Abigail hasted. Abigail what? Abigail hasted and rose and rode upon an ass with 5 damsels of hers that went after her. And she went after the messengers of David and became his wife. Right? She hasted. That's verse 42. Right? I'm going to stop right there and go back up real quick to make a point. So now, if you were here for the whole story, it seems like more people got in throughout the story, right? Just to recap the whole story real quick. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 25, right? Nabal, David's men were by Nabal's men who were shearing sheep that were basically protecting them, right? David went and asked Nabal for any type of whether it be water, food, etc. And Nabal basically cussed them out, right? He disrespected them. Okay, so David was going to take it into his own hands, and go take revenge, take vengeance. And like the brother said, like the brother Jomar said, David understood that Yahweh used Abigail to prevent him from sinning, right? And he humbled down and he said, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't do this. And guess what? The Most High, the vengeance really went to the Most High, right? He got vengeance on Nabal. But the point of this is, right? So from the beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter, this was all within 2 weeks. Okay. David sent his men to Nabal. They went, they talked to him, they came back, and they said, hey, Nabal, hey man, he railed on you, right? He disrespected you. He said this, that, and the other. Nabal got mad. David got mad. He said, gird up on your swords. In other words, get your armor, get your swords ready. We're gonna go right on this dude. And then he said, by morning, there's not gonna be left one person, not even someone pissing at the wall. Right? So that all happened in a day to 2 days, because that same day or that next day is when David was like, we got the message, let's go. Then what happened? He met Abigail, right? And like the scripture says, let me read it real quick. Verse 3, it says, she was a woman of good understanding, right? But Nabal was evil in his doings. So she was a woman of good understanding. David met her. He realized she was a woman of good understanding. And he also realized that she was a humble woman. She bowed herself down to him, bowed her face down to the ground, right? She said she begged or prayed him to have an audience to hear what she was going to say, right? She said that he was blessed by the Most High and that he was a man of the Most High, and she knew he was dealing with the Most High was dealing with him, right? So then he said, all right, it's cool. We're not gonna go kill everybody, right? He went back, and that same night, Nabal got drunk. In the morning, what happened to him? It said his heart died in him, and he became as a stone, right? He couldn't move no more, which a lot of brothers and myself as well, that leads me to believe he had a heart attack, a stroke, something like that, where you can't move. And then 10 days later, he died, right? And as soon as David heard, what did he do? He sent for Abigail to be his wife. Okay? He sent for Abigail to be his wife. And what did she do? She said, okay, I'm going to do it. She made haste, right? Verse 42, and Abigail hasted and rose and rode upon an ass. And she went after the messengers of David and became his wife, right? Now, again, this is not something that is going to be more common in these days. But some people would go as far to say that this was not done, that this was too hasty, right? It even says in verse 42, Abigail hasted and went to become his wife. But the reason why it was done decently and in order, let all things be done decently and in order, is because when you have a friend, like I kind of touched on earlier, you have to prove them first and not be hasty to credit him, right? But she already knew that he was a godly man. She already knew that he was someone who kept the commandments of Yahweh, right? If you read into the whole story with Isaac and Rebekah as well, right? Rebekah, I mean, we'd have to read all of Genesis 24 to get into that account as well. If y'all want to read about that on your own, just so I can get to the other questions. We're already an hour and 15 minutes in. But if you read Genesis 24, right? Rebekah, the reason that she or how she married Isaac, it was quick, right? It was because the Most High gave signs. Okay, the Most High gave through the Spirit gave signs when Abraham sent his servant, right? And that chapter, it's Genesis 24, but it's 67 verses, right? But I'll give y'all a quick breakdown on what happened there, right? Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for his son, for Isaac, right? So he went and he sent the servant, and the servant went to a well, right? And an angel had told him, when you stand by the well, right? When you stand by the well of water, you're gonna find a virgin, and she's gonna draw water. You're gonna ask her for some, and she's gonna say, "I'll give you some and your camel some." That's the woman that Isaac is going to marry, right? So through the Spirit, he knew, oh man, this is Rebekah. So she didn't know it yet, right? But then when she went to Rebekah's parents and she said, "Hey," or the servant Salaki, the servant said, "Hey, this is what I was told to do," and Rebekah came and she did exactly what I said, or what they told me was going to happen, right? So through the spirit, she knew. So then the parents asked Rebecca, look, you want to stay here for 10 more days, or you just want to go and marry, right? You want to go and marry Isaac. And guess what she said? She said, I'm going to go, right? Is verse, let me read that real quick. Verse 58, it says, and they called Rebecca, her parents, right? And said unto her, wilt thou go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. So they sent Rebekah with Abraham's servant who came to inquire of her for marriage for Isaac and his men. Verse 60, and they blessed Rebekah and said unto her, thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gate of those which hate them. Right? Let me jump down. I'm gonna keep reading. 61. And Rebekah arose and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels and followed the men. And the servant took Rebekah and went his way. So she left with them, right? Through the spirit, she knew it was the right thing to do. It's like the sister, which sister had said it? Let me see. Let me go back up. She said, when you both know through the spirit, right? When the Rakakadash is moving and tells you like this is the right thing to do, you got to move with it, right? I'll get to the comments right now, actually. So then, verse 62, and Isaac came from the way of the well, Lahai Roy, for he dwelt in the south country. And Isaac went out to meditate or to pray in the field at the eventide. And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, the camels were coming. So he goes out there to pray in the field, right? And he sees all the camels coming back. Verse 64. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted off the camel. For she had said unto the servant, what man is this that walketh in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, it is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Right? So right away she went to him. Right? Again, the same thing that happened with Nabal and with David. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. This is the verse that most of y'all are probably familiar with. And Isaac brought her into his mother's tent, and they took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Right? So the point of it all, and obviously that's one verse that's used to show like sex is supposed to be marriage, right? He took her, Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. They didn't have a ceremony in there. They didn't have a judge in there saying, you're gonna marry him, you're gonna marry her. No, right? They had sex, they consummated the marriage, and that's what happened. But again, she knew that this was Abraham's son, right? I'm gonna read verse 1 of the whole chapter. This is Genesis 24:1. It says, and Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things. So we know the promise first went to Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob, which had his name changed to Israel. So Abraham was the first like chosen or the first covenant receiving nation, right? And people knew this. Just like they knew Jacob was the father of the Israelites, Abraham was the chosen one at that time. So again, they knew that this was a man of the Most High, right? I'm gonna go back up because I know there's comments. Let me see. Meet a woman who has similar interests as yourself: gyms, parks, natures, healthy grocery stores, etc. Khan, that's true, but at the same time, the number one thing, again, like for a woman and a man, the number one thing a woman should be looking for in a man is, or actually, as a matter of fact, let's get a couple scriptures. Jomar, if you could get what is it? Exodus 21:10, Baba Kashar. Exodus 21:10, and or Salakia. It's Exodus. What is it? Deuteronomy 21:10. Salakia. Deuteronomy 21:10. And then Deuteronomy 21:10, and then 1 Timothy 5:8. I would pull them up on my computer and post them myself, but it's going to slow down the connection. I already know it, right? So hold on, let me get these. Okay, so the brother said, meet a woman who has similar interests as yourself, right? This is true. You have to be on one accord, like we read in the last, or we read and went over in the last live, okay? But at the same time, gyms, like you both like to go to the gym, you both like nature. All of these things aren't going to mean anything if you're not on one accord when it comes to what? When it comes to the scriptures, right? When it comes to serving the Most High. So a woman, when she's looking for a man, right? What she needs to look for is this right here. Oh, Salakia, it is Exodus. It's Exodus 21:10. I'm going to read this other one first. This is 1 Timothy 5:8. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Okay, as a woman, or as a woman or a man, anybody in the truth, one of the biggest laws that we need to make sure we're trying to keep, because it actually entails a lot of laws in this one law, is Leviticus 19:17. Leviticus 19:17, right? It's one verse, but it entails many different laws. What do I mean by that? It says you're not supposed to suffer sin upon somebody, right? You're not supposed to suffer sin upon somebody. So you as a woman, right? If you take a man to be your husband, and you're a sister, right? You're a daughter of Sarah, you're a princess of the Most High, you're a Proverbs 31 woman, Titus 2 woman, right? Whatever sisters want to call themselves. Not saying that you're not that, but a lot of sisters that call themselves are not that, right? Let's keep it real. If you take a man that cannot provide for you, and or if you have a child or if you have children, and you are going to marry this man knowing that he cannot provide for you, you need to know these two verses right here, right? It says if a man can't provide for his own, especially for those of his own house, he is denying the faith, right? So why would you put a man in that position? And he is worse than the infidel. An infidel is someone who don't even believe the Bible, right? Don't even want to follow it. Don't even believe they need to follow it, right? So as a woman, Thawada Jomar posting this one up too. As a woman, you need to know, if you're gonna marry a man and you know he can't provide for you, then why are you gonna marry him in the first place? You're gonna be suffering sin upon him. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Right? So if you're gonna marry somebody that can't provide for you, guess what? You are suffering him to deny the faith. Right? You are suffering him to be worse than the infidel. So a woman, number one, you need to make sure that he is able to provide for you, right? And I'm gonna pull up this is Exodus 21:10. It says, if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. Now this is talking about taking a second wife or another wife, right? But this applies to someone who has one wife as well. He has to be able to feed her, clothe her, and provide that duty of marriage, right? Which goes into what is it? 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, right? Which we'll get into that in just a minute. But when you're thinking spiritually and physically, a man needs to be able to feed you, right? Can he even feed you? Physically, can he buy food for you? Can you make sure you're fed? But also spiritually, can he give you the living waters? can he give you the bread of life? Right? Because like Yahushua said in Matthew 4:4, you're not going to live by physical bread alone, right? But by the word, which the word is what? The bread of life. Can a man teach you? Right? Can he give you that spiritual food you're supposed to be eating every day? Then the next one, for raiment, can he clothe you? Right? And what is clothes? It's a covering. And we went over this in the last live, so I'm just going to touch on it briefly. Can he cover you correctly? How does a man cover a woman? How does a man cover children? By protecting them. How do you really protect your children? By following these laws, statutes, and commandments, right? And her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And he needs to be able to provide that duty of marriage, sex, right? So knowing these things right here, a woman needs to, when you're looking at a man, these are basically your rights as a woman, as a wife, right? He needs to be able to feed you spiritually and physically. He needs to be able to clothe you physically and then cover you or clothe you spiritually, right? Which also goes along with teaching you, but also following these laws, statutes, and commandments. Because what a lot of women and even men don't really understand is that a man, through the man, the whole house can be saved, right? It's like Noah or like in Acts. As a matter of fact, if you could get that, Jomar, if you could get, what is it, Hebrews 11:7, Hebrews 11:7, and then I'm gonna type a couple of them in Acts real quick. 11, it was like 13 and 14. I'll put them in the comments. And 16, what, 31. Right? If a man cannot feed you and cover you and your house, then you shouldn't be looking to marry him or be dealing with him, courting with him, because a man is supposed to be first in these scriptures, right? He needs to build himself up first, and then maybe the Most High will bless him with the wife. Because if not, if he's not providing for himself and his own, especially for those of his own house, he had denied the faith and is worse than an infidel, right? And thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart, thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor. And that's another thing. You might need to rebuke a brother, right? If a brother wants to court you and you're like, well, you don't even have your own place though. Well, you don't even have a job. You have no way of providing for me. How am I going to court you? That's not being done decently and in order. Like we read, that was the first scripture we read, right? So speaking for the sisters first, and then I'll talk about the brothers real quick. So this is Hebrews 11:7. By faith, Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house. See, Noah saved his whole house, right? Through what? Through his faith. He feared the Most High. He saw what was coming. He moved. He made the moves necessary to prepare. And what happened? He saved his whole house, right? By the which he condemned the world and became the heir of the righteousness which is by faith. Because it always starts with faith, right? We always say faith and works go hand in hand. Faith without works is dead. Of course, you're not going to put in the works unless you have the faith, right? But the point of this is Noah saved his whole house because he had faith and that made him move. Acts 11:13. And he showed us how he had seen an angel in his house, which stood and said unto him, send men to Joppa and call for Simon, whose surname is Peter, who shall tell thee words whereby thou and all thy house shall be saved. Right? When a man, it all starts with the head. Right? It all starts with the head. That's why 1 Corinthians 11:3, what's the order? It's the Most High, Yahushua, who is the word and the example for us to follow. Then the man, then the woman, right? And then by default, of course, the children. Acts 16:31, and they said, believe on the Adawan Hamashiach Yahushai, and thou shalt be saved and thy house, right? It always starts with that head. You cut off the head, so falls the body, right? You cut off the head, so falls the body. It's like in jiu-jitsu and wrestling and MMA, they always teach you, if you pin the head, you make the head turn one way, guess what? The body has to follow by nature. If I take you down and I hold you down and I make your head look to your left side, guess what? Your body can't turn to the right side. However the head is, in one way or another, it is going to affect the body, right? Speaking of the man, the water ak. 1 Corinthians 11:3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is the Most High, Yahweh, right? So just like Yahushai has the Most High as his head, the man is supposed to be the head of the woman and the head of the household, right? So let me go back up. I know there was a couple more comments, and then I'll go on to the next question, right? I really like that comment, Ak. David understood Yahweh was utilizing her to prevent him from sinning, right? This happened to me recently. The Most High made a situation happen to where I believe he was preventing me to sin, and it definitely humbled me down too. He corrected my path, right? Okay, right here. The sister said, in situations like Abigail and the ball, I wonder how the verse an evil woman is given as a portion to an evil man comes into play. Sorry, I cannot remember which chapter and verse it is. Okay, Khan, the water ark. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth Yahweh, right? So we don't know the circumstances behind that, but you do have to understand that back then there was arranged marriages, right? We don't know if that was an arranged marriage. We don't know if she was wicked when she met him, right? That's all hearsay. We wouldn't know exactly the situation for that, right? But she did end up, like you said, sis, she did end up with David, though. Maybe she was wicked before, and she ended up with the dude. The Most High ended up killing him, and then guess what? She was a woman of understanding. She knew that the Most High was working with David, that he was keeping the commandments, which again, that's one of the most important things here, right? To remember, as a woman, what you need to be trying to do is be continually with a godly man whom thou knowest to keep the commandments. Again, one of the biggest things that I've seen over the years is that women don't want to be with a godly man that they know, that they have known to keep the commandments. They want to try and turn a street dude or some dude that doesn't have no wisdom, that doesn't have no types of provisions, can't provide, and they think he's gonna magically just turn into the man of their dreams, right? So let me go back. It's like the brother Jomar said in one of the songs, right? He said, the Most High is not a genie, so why are you praying like it's a wish, right? You're wishing for things that the Most High is not going to make happen, right? The Most High's will is going to happen whether you like it or not. And sometimes that will is that right there. You're going to be a wicked woman, so you're going to be given to a wicked man, right? Because you got to think about it. If a woman's moving in wisdom, she's going to want a man with wisdom, right? Sirach 13:16, you cleave to your like. So if a woman is choosing a wicked man or a man is choosing a wicked woman, they're just proving that they are wicked, right? Khan, makes sense. Google usually does a pretty good job at figuring out which verses you are talking about if you just type it in, Khan. Sometimes it does, but I find myself finding things quicker in my Bible, actually. I know, like me and the brother Jomar have talked about, if you know where your Bible is, if you're quick, you're sharp with your sword, and you know, okay, I knew it was in Exodus. It was like in the early 20s, and know I highlighted on the right top side. Sometimes it's easier to just find it in your Bible, right? Let me see. No doubt, just saying other features to consider are definitely the first thing is to be in one accord, truly believing in the Most High, calm, and not just believing, right? Actually doing it, But Khan, I feel you on that. Also, the water for your IG post that help overstand some scriptures. Khan, all praise to the Most High. Blessed be Yahweh, like David would say, right? Let me see. Would you say for the ladies, a man during these times should be prepping and planning to get out of the city, etc.? Because we all know what's coming. So I've done videos on that and stuff like that. It is prudent to have skills, right? It is prudent to, like the scriptures say, come out of her, right? At this point in time, the longer you wait, it's going to be harder to come out of the cities. Now, am I saying that you cannot be saved if you're in a city? No, that's not what I'm saying. Some brothers have kind of twisted my words when I've said things like that. I'm not saying you have to come out of the cities. You have to be a prepper or a whatever, which brothers will say if you're preparing in any way physically, you don't have enough faith, etc., etc. I believe you got to have faith. You got to have works. And preparing to the best of your ability is a prudent thing to do, right? But at the same time, the Most High is going to save who he's going to save. Maybe you had no means of preparing, nothing, only a couple. You got a little backpack with barely anything in it. The Most High can still save you. If you got nothing, the Most High can still save you. You may be at work and you got everything prepped at your house, and now guess what? The shit hits the fan and you just got to flee. You can still be saved, right? But I believe in being prudent, which prudent means using wisdom towards looking towards the future and preparing, right? So hopefully that answered your question. But having different skills is definitely a prudent thing. But number one, of course, is following the law, statutes, commandments, building up your faith, being baptized, etc. Right? The brother said for the women, I would highly, highly, highly suggest that you make being in the scriptures a priority, because when you do, you will only motivate the man to go harder in the scriptures as well, because he has to teach you. So iron sharpens iron. Con, definitely. And you know that's a good point, Doc. I agree with you 100%, because when I knew coming into this thing, like, man, my ribs got questions. I don't want her to be asking other dudes, or I don't want to have to be reaching out and asking other people. It's like the scriptures say, it's a shame for the woman to speak in the church, right? It's not saying she should be quiet the whole time. What it's saying is, after that, it says that if she's going to learn anything, let her ask her husband at home. So me personally, it was like, man, I don't want to have her to ask another man. That's a shame to me because I can't even answer that question. So that definitely motivated me, right? But at the same time, especially you sisters, you need to make sure that if you're in a courting process, you need to make sure he's doing it for the right reason. Because if he's just learning the scriptures and watching videos and doing these things just for you, his heart's not really in the right place, right? And the Most High is a discerner of hearts. If you're not coming from if he's not coming from the right standpoint in his heart, then it doesn't matter in the bigger picture, right? And I say that because I know a brother personally. He was a good friend of mine. I baptized him, um, literally physically baptized him in water, because I know some brothers and sisters don't believe in the physical water baptism. I baptized him. He was in the truth for a good, maybe, I don't want to say year and a half, maybe 2 years. And he was doing it because he wanted to marry this sister that at the time was in the truth. Sadly, neither one of them are in the truth at all. They're back in the world. But at the time, he was coming to studies every week. He was going out and teaching with me. He was reading for me. We would study together with his family. We would study just me and him, etc. And then as soon as he got married to this woman, he stopped. He stopped coming to study, right? He stopped. He didn't want to go out and teach. He started hanging out with the same crowd me and him used to hang out with. He fell back into the world, drinking, smoking weed, even doing things worse than that, right? But the point was because his heart wasn't in the right place. He was studying and he was going out and teaching and doing all these things and learning because he wanted to marry this sister, right? And then as soon as it was like night and day, like he got married, I actually married him, and that was on the weekend, and then we normally study like once during the week, and then on Sabbath, and it was like not coming. And then it was next week, and then no, and then next week, and then no, and then it was just nothing, right? Basically cut me off. And now they're not even together anymore, right? So you just got to be real careful with that. Your heart always has to be in the right place, right? So Khan, all praises. In these current times we are living in, what do you think about the sisters who are not embracing polygamy? So I was trying to kind of steer away from that topic just because a lot of people don't like to talk about it. But the times that we're coming into, and I told a couple sisters this just recently. If you want to give me Isaiah 4:1, Baba Kasha, you don't have to embrace polygyny, right? You do not have to embrace polygyny. But the thing is, when we're talking about, and me and my rib have talked about this many times, right? Let me go back up to the first verses I was bringing out, right? Let all things be done decently and in order when it comes to courting. If you're going to get a friend or you're going to court a man, you're going to make him your husband, you have to prove him first. Don't be hasty to credit him, right? Why? Because you're supposed to be continually with a godly man who you know to keep the commandments, right? Whose mind is according to your mind. If you want to follow the Most High, you have to know this man wants to follow the Most High too. He's been keeping the commandments, right? You have to prove that he's keeping the commandments. When it comes to polygamy, this shortens the process, right? If this man has already proved himself to a sister, which would be a sister wife to you, right? Then it's not going to take you as long to prove him. You're not going to be hasty because he's already proven himself with this family, right? And it's like my rib has said before too, like, why would a woman, like maybe some would, right? But if you're bringing another sister into the house, for example, right, that woman is going to be able to talk to the first wife, and that woman has no real reason to lie. Why would she be like, oh yeah, he is so righteous, he is this and that? If they're living in the truth, she's going to tell him, she's going to be straight up with her, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. That's what's going to happen. So Isaiah 4:1, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Right? So in the days of Jacob's trouble, because if you read this in context, you read Isaiah 3, probably about 17, 15, 17, around there, all the way on down to the end of the chapter. It's telling you many men are going to die. Many women are going to be left alone in Jacob's trouble. Because like I've said before, if you got no food, if you got to go out and get some food, or there's no electricity, you need some type of provisions, things to live off of, right? Who is going to go? Is the woman going to go, or is the man going to go, or is the children going to go? The man's going to go, right? A lot of men are going to die. They're going to die in the wars. They're going to die in people trying to break in, etc., etc. So a lot of women are going to be left by themselves in Jacob's trouble, right? And in those days, in those Book of Eli days, in those purge days, right, a woman is going to be real quick to want a man of the Most High, right? They're going to see, oh man, he's got beard, he's got fringes. Okay, please let me be your wife. You don't need to do nothing. I can cook. I can make my own clothes, right? Because them stores aren't going to be open. You're not going to be able to go to the mall. You're not going to be able to order clothes, right? Ain't going to be no Amazon. Just let us be called by your name to take away your reproach. So what I would say to the sisters that are not embracing polygamy, like you said, you don't have to embrace it now, but there's a good chance that later on you're going to have to embrace it, right? Which is why it's better to get a husband now than to wait till Jacob's trouble, right? Because I've had a sister tell me, right, and I won't mention her name, nothing like that, but it's a learning lesson, right? I had a sister tell me once, yeah, when Jacob's trouble comes, then I'm gonna look for you. And when Jacob's trouble comes, If I have more than one wife at that time, I'm not going to want or need another wife in the spirit I'm in right now, right? So that's a bad way to look at it. Because if you don't embrace it now, you're gonna have to embrace the chances are you might have to embrace it later, right? Which brings us to the next question. Um, Ak, if you could get let's see, where could we start? A sister asked, "Why should I get married?" Right? Why should I get married? Which that seems like a simple a simple question to answer, right? Well, what do y'all think? Why should women be married? You know what? We'll start from the beginning. I'm gonna put a couple of verses in the comments, Ak. If you could pull them up, Abakashaw. Why should women get married? That was the next question, right? Because I had been I wrote down a couple of questions my sisters and a brother had asked, right, pertaining to courting and pertaining to in the end times especially, right? And while the brother brings those up, let me just make one more point, right? If you're not embracing polygyny right now, that's perfectly fine. You don't, not everybody has to be polygynous, but I would highly recommend that every sister has a husband, right? I would highly recommend that you get a husband. Okay? The brother said you need guidance. That's definitely one of the main reasons, right? You need guidance. Why did the Most High put the man as the head of the household? Why did the Most High give a woman or make a woman for a man? Right? These are questions that you have to ask. Right, Salaki. Let me just write these in the comments for the brother to pull up real quick. Just a couple more. The okay, come. So this is the book of Genesis, chapter 2 and verse 18. And Yahweh God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him." Right? So the first thing that you got to understand, like the sister had said, why she should get married. Right? Why should she get married? Because that's what you were created for. That's the first reason. This is Genesis, the second chapter, right? Not even halfway through the second chapter of the whole book of the whole Bible. The Most High made women to be a helpmeet to a man, right? That is what you were created for. That's the number one reason. Then this is First Peter 3 and 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge. To knowledge, right? Tavon Austin said, you need guidance. What kind of guidance do you need? Do you need someone to just be there and, oh, things will be fine. Don't worry about it. I know we're going through trouble. I know we can't pay the bills and we can't this and that, but it'll be fine. That's not the type of guidance you need. The type of guidance you need is for a man to dwell with you according to knowledge. He needs to be able to look, the word says this, the word says that. He needs to be able to comfort you with the scriptures, guide you with the scriptures, right? And also, like it says here, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, right? So in Genesis 2:18, it says the woman was made for the man because it's not good for a man to be alone. So if the woman is the weaker vessel and it's not good for a man to be alone, how much worse is it for the woman who's the weaker vessel to be alone, right? Think about that for a second. The Most High said it's not good for the stronger vessel to be alone. So it's even, I know that sounds bad, right? It's less good. It's even worse for a woman to be alone, right? Brit said to be covered. Khan, if you could get what is it? Isaiah 32 and 2, Isaiah 32 and 2. Baba Kashaw, and what's the other one? Isaiah 13 and 12. Isaiah 32 and 2, Isaiah 32 and 12. We'll come back to that in just a second, right? So another reason why a woman should have a head, because the sister said, why should she be married? This is Sirach 26:26. A woman that honoreth her husband shall be judged wise of all, but she that dishonoreth him in her pride shall be counted ungodly of all. So if you're married as a woman, which like we already proved Genesis 2 and 18, that's what a woman was created for, to be a helpmeet to a man, right? But women don't want to be married, even though that's what they were created for, right? If you want to be counted or judged wise of all, who's the one judging you, right? It's Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Don't you want the opportunity as a woman to be judged wise of all? All you got to do is have a husband and do what? Honor him. Simple, right? Because again, going back to the order, 1 Corinthians 11 and 3, the Most High, Hamashiach Yahushai, Christ, then the man, then the woman, right? The woman, I know a lot of feminists ain't gonna like it, but they're at the bottom of the food chain in this instance, right? It's the Most High. Yahushai came here, was the perfect example, followed his father's will to a T, never sinned. Then the man is trying to honor Yahushua's sacrifice by honoring his father and doing his will. And then the woman, how does she honor the Most High? By honoring her husband, right? By becoming married to a man of the Most High and honoring him as if she was honoring the Lord, right? And then you'll be judged wise of all. Simple, right? It's a simple concept when said, but easier said than done, right? I see a lot of sis need guidance. A lot of sisters need guidance, but they don't want guidance. They don't want guidance. Because it's like, what is it? Ezekiel 16:44, I believe. If you could get that as well, Ak. Baba Kashaw. Ezekiel 16:44. Let me go back up because the sister had said, where's it at? To be covered, right? This is another reason, because the sister previously had said, why should she get married? Right? So we're going over all the reasons. To be covered, like the sister Brit said. Isaiah 32 and 2. And a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind and a covert from the tempest, right? And all these things that are starting to come to pass. And we know, according to 2nd Ezra, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And according to Matthew 24, it's going to get worse and worse. And according to Luke 21, it's going to get worse and worse until Yahushua comes back and cleanses the earth with fire, right? It's going to get worse. So what is going to be your covering? I see sisters saying, oh, I'm married to the Lord. God is my man. Jesus is my man. There's no scriptures that back that up, right? It doesn't say that the Most High created a woman to be the husband or to be the wife of Christ, to be the wife of the Most High, right? Salakia, sister, but you're not that holy, right? It says a man shall be a hiding place. A man shall be a covert from the tempest. All those winds of bad things, of evils, of wickedness that are going to come and are already coming, right? A man of the Most High is going to be the one that is able to protect you, right? As the shadow of a great rock in a weary land, as rivers of water in a dry place, right? It's like, I don't know if y'all live by the beach, but I remember when I was younger and you start walking in the sand and it's real hot, right? And it starts burning your feet. And then you see some shade over there and you got to run to that shade and your feet are burning up, right? Or maybe even in the street and your feet are burning and you run over there to that shadow and you get your feet. You finally touch that shadow, right, with your feet and you're not burning up no more. That's how a man of the Most High is going to be, right? But for your spirit, for your soul, for your children even, right? And that's another thing that me and my rib talk about that all the time. Like if you're a woman that has children or a child, right? Previously, before coming into the truth or before being baptized, and you're not married, which I also need to get to that question because a sister had asked about getting married after coming into the truth, right? And of course, that's gonna we're not to deal with baptism on that. That's how a man of the Most High is gonna be, not only to you but to your children, right? A lot of women don't think about their children, man, and that's sad. That's sad to me. Salakia Ak, it was Isaiah 13 and 12. Isaiah 13 and 12. 13. So I'm gonna go back up. So, like the sister had said, as a covering, right? That's another reason you need to be married, right? Because the Most High made you as a helpmeet. That's your purpose. You need a head, right? Also, because you need someone to dwell with you according to knowledge, right? Because you're the weaker vessel. If it's bad for a man to be alone, then how much worse is it for you to be alone, right? You need guidance, like the brother said. You need guidance because women are, and this is not to talk down on you sisters, but women are emotional. Women are in their feelings. And when you're running off of emotion and feelings, you cannot run off of wisdom at the same time. It's impossible. You can't act off of your feelings and act off of emotions, but then still be acting off of wisdom. So you need a man to help you with that, to be covered, right? So you can have protection, like we just read, right? A man will be a covert from the tempest, from the wind, as shadow in a weary land, in a desert land, like water in a desert land, right? You can't survive for very long without water in a desert. And that man of the Most High is going to give you what them living waters, right? Y'all go check out Jomar's new album on his. I believe the link is in his bio for his Instagram, right? Them living waters. A man of the Most High is going to give you the living waters, right? Let me go back up. Salakia, 1 second. So, Khan, another reason was you want to be able to be judged wise of all, right? All you got to do is get a godly head and honor him, right? He's gonna teach you the scriptures, and you're gonna honor him and honor the Most High by listening to them and applying them. There's another reason why you need to be married, right? It's fun. It's funny that the sister had asked this because I didn't really think, and this is not to talk down on the sister or nothing like that, right? But I didn't really think about it when the question was first asked. But there's a lot of good reasons, man. There's a lot of good reasons. Ecclesiastes 4 and 9. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Two are better than one, right? You're gonna have twice the work. If you got like the other day, I was cutting our yard and my rib wanted to help, and I was like, "You don't have to," and she's like, "No, I want to." We got it done twice as fast, right? We were burning some boxes and some branches and stuff, and my daughters came out and helped, right? Got it done twice as fast. With two are better than one. You have twice the prayers, right? You're sending up twice as many prayers. If you got a bigger family, three times the prayers, right? And if you fall, they're gonna pick you up, right? But when you're alone, you don't have nobody to help you up. When you fall spiritually, you don't got no one to help you up. And even if you're married, if you don't got somebody, if you're unequally yoked, guess what? They're not going to care if you sin. They're going to sin with you, right? Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone, right? If it's cold and you're by yourself, you're going to be cold by yourself. If it's cold and you got someone else, you got that body heat, right? Two are better than one. And And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. And if someone breaks into your house, most high forbid never happens. Just an example, right? Someone breaks into your house, if you're a sister and it's a man and he's stronger than you, you're the weaker vessel and he can overcome you. But then guess what? Your husband's there, and now it's both of you against him, right? You're gonna be like a wolf. Like, I don't know if y'all ever seen wolves. The man will stand, right? And the woman or the female wolf will act like she's cowering, and she goes under the man's neck. But really, she's not cowering. She's protecting the man. She's protecting the male wolf's neck, right? That's that two are better than one mentality, right? Let me see real quick. So the sister said, right, because the husband is the savior of the body physically. The Messiah is the savior of the souls. Sis. That's a beautiful point, right? And there's so many other scriptures we could bring out. We go to Ephesians. We could go through First Peter again. But actually, like the brother pulled up the one from Ephesians 5. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord, right? As if your man was Yahushai. Because if Yahushua walked in after working, right, and he said, I want pizza for dinner, you wouldn't be like, pizza? Really? No, I want spaghetti. No, your husband works all day and he wants that. You're going to do it for him, right? That's just one example. But in the scriptures as well, if he tells you, look, we're going to go over these precepts right now, precepts on anger, right? That's what my rib went over with my daughters earlier. So I'm just saying that. But whatever the case may be, and you're going to apply them, you're going to submit to that as unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Because like it says here, the husband is the savior of the body and Messiah is the savior of our souls, right? Let me see. Isaiah 13:12, I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man of the golden wedge of Ophir. So for those of y'all who don't know, Solomon used to send ships to Ophir, and they would bring back shiploads of gold, right? Fine gold, pure gold. Some people think that was in Peru. Some people think that was in other parts of the world, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, Ophir had plenty of gold, right? Much, much, much gold to be desired by kings. And the Most High is saying that he's making men more precious than that. Not just a regular man, right? A man of him, a man that can teach his word, a man that is dealing with him and that can save his house, right? That can save his house, like we read in Hebrews 11:7. It said Noah prepared to the saving of his house, like in Acts 11:13-14, right? He said, when you follow this word, and your whole house will be saved, right? Acts 16:31, thou and thy house shall be saved, right? And it all starts with the head. It all starts with the man because he is the head of the house. All right, so let me go back up real quick. Okay, we read that one. I see a lot of sisters need guidance. A lot of sisters do need guidance. They do. And that's why this is said right here, right? 1 Timothy 5:13. And with all, they learn to be idle. Okay, this is still going along with the question, why should I get married? Why should I be married, right? And with all, they learn to be idle. Too many women have learned to be idle, right? Even if you're in the truth, I know many sisters that have told me, look, I need more zeal. I need more, I need that fire, right? To study more, to pray more, to watch more videos, to read more chapters, to whatever, etc. Right? You don't want to learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also. So it says wandering from house to house. I know a lot of females that do this, right? They go to her house, they go to her house, they go to his house, they're everywhere, right? And what are they doing? Tattlers, being talebearers, just talking a whole bunch of nonsense, right? And it's like the scriptures say, by every idle word, you're going to be judged. right? Tattlers also and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. When you're going house to house, and nowadays you ain't even got to go house to house, right? You got sisters that, and brothers do this as well, right? But this is speaking about women, okay? You got sisters. As a matter of fact, if you could get First Timothy 5:14 and 15 as well, the next two verses from this. First Timothy 5:14 and 5:15, Baba Kashal. So it says, wandering from house to house, being idle, just talking, saying a bunch of things they shouldn't with all these people, right? Sisters nowadays got Facebook, got Instagram, got what else is there? Twitter, um, TikTok. What else? There are all these different forms of social media, right? Snapchat, right? They have all these different forms of media, social media, to be idle, to be tattlers, to be um, talebearers, right? Speaking things that they ought not, saying and even posting things they should not, being indiscreet, etc. Right? So I'm gonna keep going. I will therefore that the younger women marry. I will. This is the word of the Most High, right? This is the word of the Most High. Okay, he wills. His will is that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, and give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. Right? Because you have to understand that if you're not married, if you're not bearing children, if you're not guiding your house, it's like it says, a wise woman builds up her hands, right? But a wicked woman tears it down. A wise woman is going to build up her house, get married, guide her children. And in doing this, she is no longer going to be idle. When you're idle, that gives a chance for the adversary, for those evil spirits to speak reproachfully and to get at you, right? For Satan to speak reproachfully about you, right? And that's why if you read in what is it, First Samuel the second chapter, Rebecca couldn't have no children, right? And it was a burden to her, right? The adversary was speaking reproachfully of her. When Sarah had no husband and she was being mocked for it, right? In the book of Jeremiah, when they were in captivity, every year it said that they would weep for the women that were not married, right? It used to be a shameful thing for women to not be married, for women to not have children, right? If you were a grown woman and you weren't married, they would look at you like something was wrong, right? So that's why it says, I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. Verse 15, for some are already turned aside after Satan, right? Some sisters, they don't want to be married. They don't want to have children, right? They don't want to guide the house. They're already turned after Satan. They're already turned after the world, right? The brother said, if you pray to the Most High for patience, he might send you your wife, which helps build your patience. Just an example, but never underestimate how the Most High answers a sincere prayer. Calm, calm. Delight yourself in Yahweh, and he will give you the desires of your heart. That's one of my favorite verses. Delight yourself in Yahweh, and he will give you the desires of your heart, as long as it lines up with his will, right? Like the brother said here, sometimes it may take longer than you expected. Sometimes it's taking long because you're being wicked. At the moment, you're being wicked, and the Most High is working with you. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to give you a wicked wife. I'm going to wait. You're going to get your stuff together, and then I'll give you a wife, right? Because a wicked woman is given to a wicked man. You need to work on yourself first, right? You need to work on yourself first. As a matter of fact, if you could give me 1 Corinthians 7, maybe like the first 5 or 6 verses, Baba Kashaw. Psalm 37:4, delight thyself also in Yahweh, and he shall give thee the desires of thy heart. Exactly. Like the brother said, if you have a sincere prayer, you're sincerely following the house, there's following the Most High, he's going to bring a blessing to your house, right? He can answer your prayers like this, right? So let me go back up real quick. I know there was a couple, maybe a couple comments I missed. Let me see. Okay, so this will be the last one with answering the question, why should you be married, to the sister that asked that, right? This is Joshua 24:15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yahweh, choose you this day whom you will serve, right? Choose you this day whom you will serve. So I like to, it's like a brother had said one time to me, and I took this to heart, right? When you read this verse, it says, choose you this day who you will serve. I try to apply that to as much of my life as possible. I'm going to choose today to get something done. I'm going to choose today to, let's say for a sister, I'm going to choose today to try and court a man. Okay, maybe, maybe this brother has been my friend and teaching me for this long, etc. Because I know a few sisters that this has happened to, right? Or over the last, year, maybe year or so. They had a friend that was breaking down scriptures for them. They had a man who was teaching them, right? One of the men lived probably more than 1,000, maybe 900 miles away. Another one, same type of situation, and it starts as friends, and then it's like, hey, wait a second. I'm a woman. He's a man. He's been breaking down the scriptures for me. He can provide for me spiritually, physically, and it led to marriage, right? I know at least maybe a handful of accounts like that, right? I know a brother that the exact same thing is happening to him in a sense. So choose this day to get things done for the Most High. Choose today to have the best study you've ever had in your life. Choose today to go into your closet and pray to the Most High. Cry to the Most High, right? Choose today who you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. This is the last reason I'll give you why you should be married. Because a man of the Most High, like Joshua, he's not gonna suggest to his house that they follow the Most High, right? He's not gonna request that you follow the Most High. Look, please, baby, we're gonna keep Sabbath. Can you please keep it with no? Me and my house will serve Yahweh, right? And for some of y'all who caught the lives that we were doing consistently a few times a week, me and the brother Jomar, I had told a long time ago, I had one of my daughters that at one point in time, she didn't want to serve the Most High, right? So I told her, look, you can either serve the Most High or you're going to have to go live with your mom, right? Because she's from a previous high school relationship, right? One of my oldest daughters. And man, that's probably the most painful thing I've ever gone through. Having to think, and me and my rib, we're gonna have to give up this child, right? I felt like Abraham about to give up Isaac, but lo and behold, had faith in the Most High. Me and my rib talked about it many times, studied about it, prayed about it. Lo and behold, the Most High was like, it was just like Abraham. Not to compare that to Abraham and Isaac, but I was like, all right, well, she don't get her stuff together, she's gonna go to her mom's. And guess what? The Most High took that evil spirit off of her, put her back in the spirit. She likes studying now. Her understanding is, for an 11-year-old, crazy to me, right? And she even got baptized. Of course, her decision to get baptized a few weeks back, right? So as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. When you have a man of the Most High, he is going to make you serve the Most High, right? So that's the last one I'll give to answer that question, right? Why should you have a husband? That's more than enough reasons. We could go through more scriptures, but that's more than enough reasons. If that don't convince you, because you were created to do that, because you're the weaker vessel and you need guidance, because you're more emotional and you need someone to guide you with wisdom, because you need a covering, etc., etc., then I don't know what's gonna make you want to be married, right? If those things don't. So Tavon Austin said, women are emotional thinkers. Con. I don't know if you posted this before or after I said that. Women are a lot of times they're too emotional. They are emotional thinkers. And without leadership and wisdom of a righteous man who follows the Most High in the spirit and truth, you are a very vulnerable woman, which is very dangerous in these times. Con. I'm probably gonna screenshot that and just post that on my Instagram, because you don't know how many times I have seen exactly this play out. Right? I have seen exactly this play out. You can't, like I said earlier, you cannot be moving in wisdom and moving on emotion. Right? If you could give me Genesis 3:16, Ak, Baba Kashaw, Genesis 3:16. So the brother said, without the leadership and wisdom of a righteous man who follows the Most High in spirit and truth, you are a very vulnerable woman, right? And that's true. That's why it said in First Timothy, the 5th chapter, 14 through 16, it says it's better for you to get married, have children, guide your house, guide your children, or else what's going to happen? You're going to be given over to Satan. You're going to be idle. You're going to be busybody and doing all these other things that you shouldn't be doing, saying things you shouldn't be doing, hanging out at places you shouldn't be at, hanging out with people you shouldn't be with, right? Which is why you need the leadership and wisdom of a man that's actually following the Most High in truth and sincerity, right? If not, you're going to be vulnerable. And like the brother said, that's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to be vulnerable and emotional in these times. Because when you say things and make decisions off of emotion, that's a very, very dangerous thing. Right? Um oh, Khan, I had called this verse earlier. Ezekiel 16:44. Behold, everyone that useth proverbs shall use this proverbs against thee, saying, as is the mother, so is her daughter. Now I know people hate to hear this, right? Sisters especially, they hate to hear this. But a lot of times, the majority of times, you end up with a man that can't provide for you because you're following in your mom's footsteps. I'm going to say that again. You end up with a man who cannot provide for you, right? Or with a male, I won't even say man. You end up with a little boy because your mom married or was dating a little boy, because that's what you grew up around, right? And as is the mother, so is her daughter. You picked up those habits, you inherited those curses, right? Even in the Christian church, I don't know about the Christian church, but the apostolic church that I used to go to, they would always throw that term out there: generational curses, generational curse this, and because your mom this and your dad this, and now you got that. But they don't teach you how you got cursed, right? By sinning. They don't teach you Deuteronomy 28. But I'll digress on that, right? The point is, as is the mother, so is her daughter. Look at the man that your mother's dating. Or maybe your mother was dating a bunch of different men, right? And they all have the same characteristics as the man you're with, or the man type of man that you like now, right? As is the mother, so is the daughter. That's why you have to break that generational curse and get a man that has wisdom, right? Without a head, so the sister said, without a head, it would be easier for us to fall into the same snare that Eve fell into, deception. Her disobeying Adam is just as if Adam wasn't there. So, Khan, when you really think about it, and man, I've been meaning to do a lesson on that, breaking that down, the whole Adam and Eve, and the serpent. But it's the same type of concept, right? Eve Eve wants to do what Eve wants to do. I saw a brother um the other day that made a post, and I was like, man, that's that's harsh. That's cutting. That cuts, right? But it's true. He said, if Eve didn't obey the Most High, what makes you think Eve is gonna obey you, brother? Right? And I was like, in general, when you look at Jake and Eve, at Israelite men and women outside of the truth, and even in the truth, in a lot of cases, guess what? It is like that, right? It is like that. Right now, our options are extremely limited. A lot of pretty women out here are snake bitten already. Ain't that the truth, dog? Ain't that the truth? Hey, I know that from experience, dog. I know that from experience. Trust me when I say that. Brit R, right? Because the husband is okay, calm. We read that one already. Let me keep going. Wicked, rebellious women possess that mindset and are really bitter feminists, showing a form of godliness, but their heart is far from the Most High. Khan, and what do the scriptures um say about that? Salakia. Let me get to this message real quick. So what do the scriptures say about that? Do you know? So 2 Timothy 3:5, it says, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. Right? The scriptures say turn away from them brothers and sisters that show a form of godliness, right? But they deny the power thereof because they're not really following it. Their heart isn't really in it, right? Their hearts have waxed cold, like it says in Matthew, right? Uh, I feel bad for any feminist in Jacob's trouble. Con. It's not that I mean, I feel bad for sisters and things of that nature, but to be honest with you, I've talked many times with my rib about this, right? Obviously it's the Most High's will for everything to be done, but the people I really feel bad for is their children, right? A feminist that has a child, and of course most of them ain't gonna admit they're feminists, but a woman that refuses to be married and they have children, man, I feel bad for their children. I feel so bad for their children. But that's neither here nor there, right? Um, Justin Coleman, Joe Maraki dropping gems in the chat. Khan, you should have asked to be on this. Ak, Jomar, we'll have to do another live. Maybe what's today? Tuesday. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe Thursday. If not tomorrow, Thursday for sure. Right. Um. Okay. First Corinthians. Or I'm gonna come back to that one right now. I'm gonna get a question right now. Um. So Khan, all praise to the Most High. Blessed be Yahweh, like David would say, right? He said that so many times in First and Second Samuel. Blessed be Yahweh. So Genesis 3:16, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Right? He shall rule over thee. You need to have a man to rule over you. Like the sister said here, without a head, you're gonna be deceived. You're gonna be easier to fall into snares. You're gonna be easier for them evil spirits to come on you, right? And if you're not with the man of the Most High and you're with someone who's not a man of the Most High, guess what? You're just inviting more of them evil spirits on you, right? Because he ain't gonna be giving you scriptures. He ain't gonna be leading you and guiding you the way you're supposed to, right? That's why you need a leader with wisdom that's sincerely following the Most High, like the brother said there, right? Because that's truly what the woman was made to desire. Deep down inside, that is what the woman desires. That is what the woman's spirit and soul want, right? The problem is that they've been deceived by all these different devices and and inventions. And actually, if you could get Ecclesiastes 7:29 out, Baba Kashaw, Ecclesiastes 7:29. All these different philosophies, right? The Most High didn't make you to be following all these other different philosophies and all these other inventions and devices, right? That have been brought through the westernized mindset, through the Europeanized mindset and doctrine that we're all living in now. Since the beginning, the Most High made a woman to desire for a husband to rule over them and rule over them how? In wisdom and in truth and in sincerity, right? So Ecclesiastes 7:29, lo, this only have I found, that Yahweh hath made man upright, right? The Most High made a woman upright to desire a husband, to desire him to rule over her, right? But what happened? But they have sought out many inventions, right? They turned the use of themselves. If you could get Romans, what is it, 126, I believe. Romans 126, Baba Kashaw. Lo, this only have I found, that Yahweh hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. Not just the man, we're talking about mankind, women too. He made the woman, like we read in Genesis, the 2nd chapter. He made her to be a helpmeet to a man, right? He made her to desire a husband to rule over her. But then what happened? They sought out many inventions. Feminism, right? They sought out feminism. They sought out lesbianism. They sought out all these other things that go against what the Most High created the woman for, right? Single mothers are a generational curse. Khan. If you could get what is it? Deuteronomy 28 and 54. 28 and 54, I believe. So this is Romans 126. For this cause Yahweh gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. Right? Women change their use, which is against nature. What did the Most High create the woman to be? Naturally, a wife and a mother, right? That's why 1 Timothy chapter 5, what did it say? It said, I will that the younger women marry and bear children and guide the house. This is what women were created for. But what happened? And it's crazy because you see these scriptures just playing out in this generation. All these scriptures are alive, right? All of these things you can just look around and see all around you. But then you have so-called sisters in this truth that don't want to follow it. Even though you know it's true, you see it all around you. Women are giving up the natural use. They don't want to have children. They don't want to be married. They don't want to guide their house, right? The women are changing into something that's not natural, into something that's against nature. And like the brother said, single mothers are a generational curse. It's a curse in general too, right? Because if you read Deuteronomy 28 and 15, right, which if you've heard the song The Curses by Jomar and myself, with that verse comes out in it, right? Deuteronomy 28:15, it says, it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee, right? And then it starts going through the curses. Cursed shall thee be in the city, cursed shall thou be in the field, cursed in your basket, in your store. The curse is the fruit of your body, the fruit of your land, and it keeps going. So these curses are for not following the Most High. This is Deuteronomy 28:54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil towards his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. So, like the brother said, that's a curse, right? The man is going to be evil to the wife of his children and to his children, and he's going to leave his children, right? He's going to leave his children. But going back, let me go back up real quick. I believe that was it on the comments. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next question. I'm gonna go to the next question. So we already answered, um, how long should we court for, seeing that we're living in these evil times, right? Again, that question, I guess, is subjective, right? You had Jacob that he courted or worked 14 years for Rachel. Obviously, that would not be expedient. Seeing all the things that are happening, you're not going to wait 7 or 14 years for someone. But you do have to do things decently and in order, right? You have to prove the person, right? Don't be quick to credit them, and be with someone who is godly, who you know to keep the commandments, right? And then we gave the example of Rebecca and Isaac, how they were married pretty much immediately, and then David and Abigail, how they were married less than 2 weeks of knowing each other, right? But it's because they knew these were men of the Most High, right? They knew that they were keeping the commandments, and these women were women of understanding. They were women that were submissive and willing to be a woman that's judged wise of all, like it says here. A woman that honoreth her husband shall be judged wise of all. Right? Then we answered the question. The next question was, why should I be married, or why should I get married, which a sister had asked. And because you want the opportunity to be judged wise of all, because you're the weaker vessel, because two are better than one, because it's a shame not to be married, right? Because you need someone to rule over you, etc. So let me see, what was the next question? Okay, the next question is we could probably knock it out real quick, but it's very important. Okay, very important. Ak, if you could give me 2 Corinthians 5:17. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Acts 2:38. Once I see one of those pop up, I'll give you another one. Right. So the next question was, can I be married once I come into the truth if I've already been married? Okay. Can I be married once I come into the truth if I've already been married? Okay. So I'm going to answer this with precepts, obviously, and give y'all a couple examples. Okay, the water. So Khan, the next one was Acts 2:38, and then John 3:5-6. Right. So for you sisters, we're gonna talk about the sisters first, and then we'll the brothers is easier to explain. So we'll talk about the sisters first, right? Because obviously we know the majority of females are not virgins, right? With this society, very hypersexualized, and we know that many people or many women are not virgins when they get married, right? If you could get John 3:5 as well, Baba Kashaw. Baba Kashaw, Baba Kashaw. Right, so I'm gonna start with this one. So remember, through thy precepts we get understanding, right? Through the precepts we get understanding. So this is 2 Corinthians. Salaki, I don't know if you probably posted it up. I just can't see it on my end. You could get Acts 2:38 as well. Baba Kashaw. So 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if any man be in Yahushai or in Hamashiach, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. Right? So how do you be baptized, or how do you, Salakia, how do you be in Christ? How do you become a new creature. Right? It's not popping up on my end, but I'm going to go ahead and go to it, right? Let's go to Acts 2 and 38. And this is what a lot of camps, in my, not even in my opinion, in the understanding of Yahushai, this is what a lot of the so-called camps are missing, right? Acts 2 and 38. Then Peter said unto them, this is Acts 2 and 38. Then Peter said unto them, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Yahushai HaMashiach, for the remission of sins, and ye shall receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. All right, I'm going to read it one more time. It's Acts 2 and 38. Then Peter said unto them, repent and be baptized, every one of you. When you look up that word baptized, it's baptismo, right? It means to be fully submerged in water, right? It means physically be baptized in water. And what is the purpose of that? Be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Yahushai HaMashiach, for the remission of sins. So you are supposed to be baptized in water, right? And I have a couple lessons on my channel. You want to check them out. One of them is probably about about 4 hours long, actually. But going more in detail into the water baptism, which is a very important and intricate part of this walk when it comes to following Yahushai's example, right? Because what he did, he was the perfect example to walk in, and we should be doing the things that he did, right? So when you look into that word remission, right? Actually, I'm going to pull it up real quick. When you look into that word remission, it's a physis. 1 second. I'm going to pull up the definition. So, remission, right? This is in the Strong's definition. It's G863, right? G863. For those of y'all who like to go into the Strong's, it's Greek number 863. Remission, or a physis in the Greek, it means freedom, pardon, deliverance, forgiveness, liberty, remission. And then in the outline of usage, it says release from bondage or imprisonment, forgiveness or pardon of sins, letting them go as if they had never been committed, remission of the penalty, right? Letting them go as if they have not been committed. Okay, so when you're looking at the baptism, right? Acts 2 and 38. Then Peter said unto them, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, for the remission of sins, and ye shall receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. When you get that water baptism in the correct name, right, you become a new creature. Like it says right here in 2 Corinthians 5 and 17, right? Because all your sins have been forgiven as if they were never committed. You become a new person. Therefore, if any man be in Hamashiach, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. All things are become new, including yourself. Okay, you become a new creature. Brother, you become a new creature. Sister. So the question was, can I get married? And this is from a sister, right? Can I get married after previously being married? And I know that what the sister meant, like after having sex, and then you come into the truth, right? Can you get married again? Right? Well, you're not going to go back to that man. You're not going to go back to that woman and be like, hey, well, I'm in the truth now. I follow the Bible, and you're my husband or you're my wife, right? Because I've heard brothers say that. Well, every sister, every woman that you slept with, she's your wife. You got 5, 10 wives out there now, right? That's not the way it works, right? They probably, a bunch of them been with a bunch of other men now, or maybe they're married and have children, and you're going to go hit them up and be like, you're my wife? No, that's not going to work, right? So you're a new creature now if you get baptized. you now have the opportunity to be married again, right? And that's another thing that I've posted multiple times. If you come into the truth and you get baptized, now you know, and there's no going back, there's no excuses. The Most High knows, and you know that the next person that you sleep with is supposed to be seen as marriage. It that is who you are married to, right? Like we read in Genesis 24 and 67, right? Isaac took Rebekah into the tent, and what did they do? They had sex, they were married, right? That is supposed to be the consummation of a marriage, having sex. So whoever you have sex with after being baptized, that is who you're supposed to be with for the rest of your life, right? That's who you're supposed to be with for the rest of your life. And let me go to I'm gonna go to 1 Corinthians 7 real quick. Con. Brother said, highly recommend that baptism live for anyone that hasn't gotten baptized. Con. Same here, same here. Anybody on the fence about baptism, maybe somebody told you shouldn't or you don't have to, or etc., etc. If you watch that live, I guarantee you, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, it's going to convict you, Most High willing, into knowing that you need to be baptized, right? Remission. Okay, could you give me Deuteronomy? I'm gonna write it right here in the chat. Deuteronomy 24 and 1 and 1 Corinthians 7 and 39. Baba Kashaw. Baba Kashaw. And I'm gonna read this real quick. Remission, forgiveness or pardon of sins, letting them go as if they had never been committed. Remission of the penalty. So in Acts 2:38, when it says you get baptized for remission of sins, you are getting forgiven for those sins, right? You are getting forgiven and pardoned for those sins as if they were never even committed. AKA, you become a new creature, right? Why? Because you were baptized in Hamashiach, right? You were baptized in his name, and now you're a new creature. Old things are passed away, right? Oh, and you know what? Another question that I had got from a sister, and this is a how would I say this? This is something between you and the Most High, because I couldn't say, I don't know the intentions of your heart, right? A sister was saying, okay, well, I learned of the truth. I learned I have to follow the word, etc., etc. But I'm unequally yoked because I came into the truth and I found out about the truth. I started keeping Sabbath. I started doing these things, but my husband's not on board. He's being wicked. He's smoking weed, drinking, doesn't keep Sabbath, doing all manner of wickedness, right? And basically, she said, but I haven't been baptized yet, right? So she basically, the question that she was asking was, without asking, was, what if we were to separate and I get baptized? What if we get divorced and I get baptized? Right? That's something between you and the Most High, to be perfectly honest with you. Because yes, you become a new creature, but I don't know where your heart is at in that situation. Right? Are you just looking for an escape, trying to get away? Are you sincerely? Because if you're getting baptized for the wrong reason, you're not getting baptized because you want remission of sins. You're not getting baptized because you believe that Yahushua is our Savior, etc., etc. If you're doing it for the wrong reason, then that baptism truly isn't valid, right? But other than that, let's go to the law first, right? I'm gonna actually I'll start in 1 Corinthians 7:39. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth, right? So Paul was quoting the law. The wife is bound to the husband for as long as he lives, right? But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord, right? only in the Lord. So basically, what it's saying is if your husband is alive, you're supposed to stay with him. That's it. It's for life, right? But if he dies, then you can marry again, but only in the Lord. In other words, only to a man that is going to guide you in the ways of the Most High, right? So if you could also give me, let me see, I'm looking for a real quick. What is it, Matthew? See, this is what I mean. Sometimes it's faster to just find it in my Bible. Matthew 19 and 9. Actually, Salaki, 19:7 through 9. 19:7 through 9. 19:7 through 9, right? So this is Deuteronomy 24 and 1. When a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. Right? So back in the days, it was like, you know what? She has uncleanness in her. Maybe I don't like her. She's dirty. She don't shower. Whatever the case may be, making up reasons just to get rid of their wife. Right? Writing the divorcement, getting them out. Now let's see what Yahushua said. Right? Because we have to remember in John 1:17 it said that with Yahushua came truth, right? Came more truth. He elaborated or even simplified in some ways. He simplified the law that was given by Moses, right? That's why John 1:17 it says the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahushua, right? He cleared up some of the things that needed to be cleared up, so to speak, right? So this is Matthew 19:7. They say unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and put her away, like we just read? He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery, and whoso marrieth her which is put away doth commit adultery. Right? Hopefully y'all catch that. You're following along. If you have a wife, the only valid reason for divorcing her is for fornication. If she fornicates and commits adultery and sleeps with another man, that's the only way that you can divorce a woman, right? The only valid grounds for divorce, right? And this is why it's so important when you're choosing a man or choosing a woman to marry, right? If you're too hasty and you choose a man that, oh yeah, I will provide for you, I will start keeping the commandments, I will start doing the things I need to, and then you get married, like I told you about the brother. He got married, he stopped coming to studies, he stopped going out with me and teaching, he stopped posting about the Most High. It was like night and day, right? As soon as he got married. Then I've had other cases where, giving counseling to either to a couple that's courting or to a sister or to a brother, and it's like they get married, and then over time, a few weeks, a few months, whatever, it's not about the Most High no more, right? Because it was never about the Most High, right? So the only valid reason is for fornication, is for cheating, or else you're supposed to stay with your husband, right? For life, for life. If there are no other law keepers in my area, how do I go about baptism? I will watch the video as well. What area are you located in, sis? Because we know some brothers in a lot of different a lot of different ways, right? What area do you live in? And as a matter of fact, Ak, if you could give me First Corinthians 7, so I can make a point real quick too. One second. First Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 10 through, let me see, 10 through 15, Baba Kashaw. First Corinthians 7, 10 through 15. First Corinthians 7, 10 through 15. Right. So the sister said, I'm in the Bahamas. I think there's a brother. I don't know. Well, the Bahamas ain't. How far, how easy would it be to get from Jamaica to the Bahamas? Because I know there was a brother that lives in Jamaica, but I don't know. I honestly don't know how far it is, how easy it would be to go through there. But I might be able to find that brother for you. Tavon Austin, Deuteronomy 22 and 29. Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. So, Khan, that's talking about a very specific situation, which I won't get too much into because it's a little bit off topic. But Khan, so these are some verses right here that brothers try to use. To say they can just divorce their wife for whatever reason, right? Or I've heard people use. 1 Corinthians 7 and 10. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but Yahweh, let not the wife depart from her husband. Right? The wife is not supposed to depart from her husband. But, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. So the wife's not supposed to leave the husband. We know this, right? But we do know, or I personally know, of so-called sisters that they get married, they're supposedly in the truth, and then guess what? They leave their husband, right? I've even known of some sisters that they marry one dude in the truth, and then they end up, for whatever reason, not staying together, and then she ends up going and marrying another man that is in the truth, right? And this is why it's very expedient to put it in writing, right? For those of y'all who saw on my Instagram page, I posted up a marriage covenant that had Hebrew, right? A Hebrew marriage covenant, and to be honest, I mean, I'm going to change a couple of little things, how they're worded and things of that nature, if I'm to use it in the future. But it for the most part, it's a solid contract or covenant, right? It's very important to put it in writing, because I even know in one of the biggest camps, which I won't even say their name, one of the biggest camps that this happened to, there was a brother there, and he married a woman that claimed to be in the truth. For whatever reason, she said, you know what, I'm going to depart. That's it. Of course, she's supposed to remain unmarried or reconcile to him, but she didn't reconcile with him, right? And she married another brother. And then at one of the Hebrew summits or gatherings, this brother ended up seeing the woman he was married to with another man, which in the Most High's eyes is adultery, right? So that's why it's a very important thing to put that in writing, right? In case something like that were to happen. Because not only is she doing wrong and committing adultery, but like it also said, like Yahushua said, the man that she's now with is committing adultery as well, right? Now, of course, now that she's committed adultery, the first husband, the original husband, has grounds for divorce, right? And he can divorce her, right? Verse 12. But to the rest speak I, not the Most High. If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she is pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And the woman which hath a husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now they are holy. So if you're in the truth, right? If you're in the truth and you have a husband or a wife that's not, and they still want to stay with you, then you should stay with them, right? If they're still, you know what, I respect you keeping the Sabbath, whatever. I'm not keeping it, but you're keeping the Sabbath. You never know. Maybe someday they're going to come around. Maybe someday they're not, right? But Paul is saying, because remember, he's saying the rest speak I. The rest speak I, not Yahweh, right? This is Paul saying this. Hey, if they want to stay with you, then stay with you, right? But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases, but Yahweh hath called us to peace. So now, this is the scripture that I've heard some brothers and some sisters say, and you know what? That's their understanding. That's fine. But to my understanding, according to the law, according to Yahushai, according to Paul himself, which we actually went over that already, later on in this same chapter, he says you are still bound by law as long as your husband lives, right? And I'll get that again right now in a second. So it says, but if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, right? The Most High called us to peace. So you can, if they want to depart, you can let them depart. But at the same time, if they depart, that doesn't mean you, sister, can just go get married, right? Because the wife is bound by the law as long as as long as he's alive, right? So the only way you'd be able to get married at that point, if he were to depart, is if you have not been baptized and you now get baptized, right? And you become a new creature, and then you would be able to get married again, only in Yahweh, right? Isn't the Bahamas close to Florida? Con, it's in that general area, sis. You are wicked. That's a woman who's not really in the truth and not truly following the Most High. Con, I agree 100%, right? That's why you can't be hasty to credit people, right? You cannot be hasty to credit people. Because when you're hasty in your words and in your deeds, you will be slack and remiss, right? Sirach, what is that? 429, I believe. So be not hasty in thy words and deeds, and be slack and remiss. If you're too hasty to get a sister, and you just want her for what most men want women for, you just want her for sexual reasons, then guess what? You're gonna be too hasty, and she might end up doing what that sister did, right? That's why I love that verse, Tobit 8 and 7. If you could get that out, and I'll probably close out with that. I'll probably have to do a part 2 of this. We're already going on 3 hours. So courting in the end times and dealing with unstable marriages. If anybody has any other questions, you want to go ahead and post them up real quick. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and close this one, and then I'll do another live either tomorrow or Thursday, most high willing. Right, but we'll close it with Tobit 8 and 7. Tobit 8 and 7. So just to recap real quick, right? The first question we went over was on the courting, right? How long should you court for? That depends, right? It really does depend. Because actually, let me go up and see if the comments are still there. If there wasn't too many comments, I should be able to go up. Okay, calm. So when it comes to courting, let all things be done decently and in order, right? just going to recap real quick because it was, 3 hours already. You got to let things be done decently and in order. Now, what's decent and in order for you may not be for the next brother or for the next sister. You may need more time. You may need less time. It may take you a year. It may take you 6 months. Maybe you've known a brother or sister for a long enough time to where you're just like, you know what? We've basically been doing what a married couple would do, except for the sexual part, which I've seen that happen with multiple brothers and sisters recently, right? And they just marry. That's possible too. Because the point of it is if you would get a friend, you have to prove them first, right? If you're just meeting somebody, you just meet someone on Instagram or on Facebook or in person, well, guess what? You can't be hasty to credit them, right? You got to prove them first. Now, maybe you've known them on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, for a long time. You've been talking, you've been seeing them keep the feast days, etc., etc. That could cut down the time, right? Now it doesn't have to be a whole year. You've been seeing them for 2 years, keeping the feast days, keeping the Sabbath, doing lessons, etc., whatever the case may be, right? Or you've been seeing a woman that's been modest and meek and discreet for whatever amount of time. That may cut down the time, right? Sirach 37:12, but be continually with a godly man whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahweh, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. So you need to, for sisters especially, you need to make sure that if you're going to continue with this man for life, right, or till he dies, you need to make sure you have known him to keep the commandments, which is why in the previous video I did on courting, which was also probably about 3 hours, I said what generally the majority of you brothers and sisters were saying. I said maybe 6 months, a year should be a good enough time if you're consistently studying with them, keeping the feast days, the laws, the Sabbaths, etc., new moons, right? But again, if you've known that they've been keeping the commandments for the longest time, that could cut down the time that you need to court for by a whole bunch, like Abigail and David, right? Got married in less than 2 weeks. So the next one, I'm gonna keep going down. Sirach 13:16, all flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like. The person that you end up courting, and if you end up marrying them, you need to understand that if they're wicked, that makes you wicked. Because if you're quote unquote in the truth and you decide to court someone who is not sincerely in the truth, if you decide to court somebody or marry somebody who you haven't known to be keeping the commandments, right? You are being too hasty to credit them, and you're not doing things decently and in order. So if they're wicked and you marry them or court them, that makes you wicked as well, right? Because you're not following the precepts that the Most High laid out for you. You don't want to follow his advice, then he's going to let you fall into a wicked marriage, right? Then the next one, let me see. There's a lot of comments. Okay, Khan. 1 Timothy 5:8. If a man provides not for his own, but if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. If you're a man trying to court a woman and you don't have your own place, if you don't have a job, right? If you can't provide for her food, clothing, and duty of marriage, then guess what? You shouldn't be trying to court a woman in the first place, right? You shouldn't be trying to marry in the first place. And remember, we said food and raiment is spiritual too. You got to be able to give her that spiritual food daily. You got to be able to break down the scriptures for her. Feed her that bread of life, which is the word. Give her those living waters, which is the word. And her raiment, which is clothing, you got to be able to cover her, right? How? By keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. So the Most High will protect you, and you can in turn protect her, right? If not, like it says here in the law, you are not to suffer sin upon somebody. If you're a woman that claims to be in the truth and you marry a man who cannot provide for you, right? You are suffering sin upon him, right? He's wicked because he can't provide for you. You're wicked because you're marrying him and you're suffering sin upon him, right? Then the next question, let me see. The next question was why should I be married, right? Why should I be married? Because like Noah, right? By faith, Noah being warned of Yahweh of the things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house. A man of the Most High can save his house. That's why you should be married, right? A man of the Most High can save his whole household. Acts 11 and 13, or I'm going to jump to 14. Who shall tell thee words whereby thou and all thy house shall be saved? When the head gets in order, it's going to start trickling down, Most High willing, and the whole house can be saved. Acts 16:31. And they said, believe on the other one, Hamashiach Yahushai, and thou shalt be saved, and thy house. Again, the man is the head of the house, like it says here, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is the Most High. So why should you have a husband? Because the man can save his whole house again, just like Noah did, right? And think about this for a second. When Noah closed that ark door, what did that mean? Nobody else was getting saved, right? Who did he save? His family, his household, right? If that doesn't motivate you to want to be married, I don't know what will, right? Let me see. Salakia. Another reason why you should be married, Genesis 2 and 18. And Yahweh said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. If it's not good that the man should be alone, how much worse is it for the woman who's the weaker vessel to be alone, right? Women need a man to keep the emotions in check, to guide them with wisdom, right, and understanding, because they are the weaker vessel, and so that they can be heirs together of the grace of life. Heirs together. What is an heir? It's someone who inherits something. Y'all are trying to inherit the grace of life together, that your prayers be not hindered. You got 2 times the power when you're praying, right? Which is why it says Ecclesiastes 4 and 9, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor, right? You got 2 times the prayers, 2 times the works, right? Another reason you should get married, Sirach 26 and 26, a woman that honoreth her husband shall be judged wise of all. But most women don't want a chance to be judged wise of all because they don't even want to be married, right? Joshua 24 and 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yahweh, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. This is the attitude and the spirit that a man of the Most High is going to be living in. As for me and my house, I am the head of this house, we will serve Yahweh. We will be keeping the feast days here. We will be keeping the Sabbath here. We will not be allowing wickedness in our house. We will not be allowing fornication and homosexuality and all manner of wickedness in the house, right? Another reason why a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. A man is going to be a covering and a protection for his household, for the children, for the women in Jacob's trouble, and already is right now when you think about it, from evil spirits and from all types of wickedness, right? Let me keep going. Why should you be married? Because the Most High is making men more precious than fine gold, right? It's like the scriptures say, how much better is it to get wisdom than gold, or wisdom than riches, or wisdom than silver, right? Wisdom is more precious than rubies, right? So a man that has wisdom, guess what? Just like we're seeing inflation, everything go up, a man's value is going to continue to inflate as well, right? Which is why it says, I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. But guess what? A lot of women don't want to marry. They don't want to bear children. They don't want to guide the house for whatever reason. Many excuses, many emotional feelings of excuses. But what it comes down to is, for some are already turned aside after Satan, right? Many women are already turned aside after Satan, right? Oh, we didn't even read this scripture. Let me read it real quick. 1 Corinthians 7:1. Now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman, right? So Paul was saying basically that it's good if a man doesn't touch a woman, right? And he goes on to say, because he didn't have a woman, he didn't have a wife. There was certain men. As a matter of fact, let me get it real quick. Matthew 19 and I believe 12. There were certain men that were eunuchs, right? Con. This is Matthew 19 and 12. It says, for there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Right? So he was saying that there's eunuchs that from their birth, right? They got genital defects. They can't have sex. They can't be with women. They can't have children, right? There were some which were born from their mother's womb. Then it says, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, right? Because in certain slaveries, that's what they would do, right? They would cut off the man's genitals or you know, their testicles or whatever the case may be. They were made eunuchs of men. And then the last one, it says, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. Like Paul, he wasn't dealing with women, right? There's a very small amount of men that would do that. But we know in this hypersexualized society, it's even harder for men to do that. And at the same time, in these end times, in these last days, two are most definitely better than one. And actually, if you're still there, if you could get Sirach 36, 24 through 25. Sirach 36, 24 through 25. Baba Kashaw, right? So then notice it says at the end, it says, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. So there's not that many men that are able to receive that in these last days, if we're being perfectly honest, right? There's not very many men that want to be by themselves, right? And we'll read why right now in Sirach 36. So what Paul was saying here now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. So let me say this one more time, going along with 1 Timothy 5 and 8, and going along with Exodus 21 and 10. If you're a man that doesn't have no precepts under your belt, right? You don't even have not one precept memorized, written upon the table of your heart, like it says in Proverbs, chapter 3 or 4, right? You have no precepts under your belt. You got no categories, right? I also did a live probably a while back, months ago, on how to study, writing categories, right? You don't have no wisdom. You're barely in this thing, and now you want to get married. It's not time for you to be able to touch a woman yet, right? It's not time for you to be blessed with finding a wife, which is a good thing, right? Proverbs 18 and 21 says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. A wife is a blessing of the Most High, right? Or it could be a curse because a wicked woman is given to a wicked man. But Proverbs 18 and 21 says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. The Most High is not going to bless you with that good thing unless what? Unless you are already able to provide for that woman. So if you're trying to get married to a woman and you can't teach her, and you ain't got a job, or you ain't even got your own place, you're living with your mom, or or you're living with a friend, etc., you need to get yourself in order first. It is good for you not to touch a woman right now because it's going to be nothing but a distraction to you, right? So let me go back down. So lock it 1 second. All right, so Rock 36 and 24. He that getteth a wife beginneth the possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest. Right? He that getteth a wife beginneth the possession. Now I know a lot of women have a problem with this verse, but like I said before, you have to understand that back in the days, when you think of a possession, it's something that you possess, but it's something you have to purchase, right? When a woman was a virgin back then and you pay a dowry, you were literally purchasing her for a dowry, right? Like the brother brought out the scripture earlier, you would give like 50 silver shekels or whatever the case may be. That becomes a possession to you. But a possession, like I said, I believe it was in the last live, when you have a prized possession, you take care of it, right? Just like a woman is supposed to take, or a man is supposed to take care of his woman, right? And you're getting a help like unto yourself. Again, going back to Genesis 2 and 18, where it says that a woman was made to be a helpmeet to a man, right? And a pillar of rest. A good woman, a good wife is going to be a pillar of rest to you, not a headache, right? Verse 25, where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled. So this is why women need to really be considering, or not even considering, getting in the spirit of the foremothers that we had, right? And looking to be married with a godly man, right? Because, like I said before, when Sarah had no husband, they were mocking her, right? In Jeremiah, when they were in captivity, they would weep for the women that were not married, right? In the times we're coming into, where no hedge is, if you don't have a hedge of protection, which is a man of the Most High, not just any man, because if he's not a man of the Most High, he's not going to be a protection, right? He's going to go down. He's going to be one of those many men that die in the war. Like it says in Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, one of the last 3 verses, right? It says that many men are going to die in the war, and the woman is going to be sitting desolate upon the ground, right? You're going to be left by yourself. So where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled. When you look up the term spoiled, it could mean robbed, it could mean raped, right? These are the times that we're coming into. And he that hath no wife will wander up and down mourning. And a man that doesn't have a wife, the majority of men want a wife. They're not that strong in the spirit like Paul, right? And I could be honest and say that as well, right? If I didn't have my rib, I tell her that all the time. The Most High used my rib to bring me into the truth, because she came into the truth before I did, right? She already was knowing the truth, and she was kind of telling me about it, and I was still smoking weed and stealing and doing all types of wickedness. But the Most High used her through her obedient spirit and things of that nature, and through His power, through His spirit, I was able to come to the truth, right? So let me go back up. Okay, Khan. Tavon Austin, there's a reason the Most High tells you you are bound to your husband till he dies, because when you lay with a man, you take on his spirit. Khan. Y'all look up semen retention, right? Every man that a woman sleeps with, she retains his DNA, right? That's why if you start taking on the traits of that man. That's a good point, Ak. That's why only through baptism would you be able to get another husband, becoming a new creature. Tobit 8 and 7. And now, O Yahweh, I take not this my sister for lust, but uprightly. Therefore, mercifully ordain that we may become aged together. Right? Taking a sister uprightly. Right? So you taking a sister uprightly would be you want to teach her. You want to be that protection to her. Right? If she has children, the same thing. You want to be that man that can protect and guide them Most High willing to the kingdom. And like we already read a few times, you'll be like Noah, right? And through that fear of the Most High and through your faith and through your works, you're able to save your whole household, right? YNR Jace, not sure if you answered this already, but how long do you court someone for? So Khan, I answered it, and it depends. It depends on the situation. We looked through a couple different examples, and like Jacob, who waited for Rachel for 14 years, right? 7 years, and then another 7 years, and then you had David, who married within 2 weeks, right? And then you had there's a lot of examples that we could give, but if you watch the other video I did on courting, I had previously said six months to a year, but again, that can be cut down if you've known the person for a long time, if you've known they've been keeping the commandments, if you've already been proving them without even knowing, right? Let me go back to this verse real quick. Sirach 6 and 7, if thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first and be not hasty to credit him, right? Maybe you know a sister. I'm pretty sure you're a brother. Maybe you know a sister and you've been talking to her for a long time. She's been keeping Sabbath. She's been keeping the holy days, etc., etc. Maybe she's already proven herself to keep the commandments, right? To be a good wife, to have those qualities and the spirit of a wife. Maybe you've been proving them without even proving them. That could cut down the process a lot. If it's someone brand new, I would say at least a good maybe 6 months. But even then, it's tricky because the times that we're coming into, man, it's like we don't know how much time we have left, right? With lockdowns, I don't know if y'all heard Biden said the other day, the only way to stop the Omicron variant is a worldwide lockdown, right? You already got lockdowns in a bunch of other countries. In Austria, I believe it's February, they're going to mandate the vax, right? So it depends. It depends. But for a sister, this was a verse that I was saying you always have to keep in mind. But be continually with a godly man whom thou knowest to keep the commandments, right? If you know someone who's been keeping the commandments, it could cut down that time a lot, right? So to get a better understanding with more precepts and things of that nature, I would definitely just go back and rewatch it. So if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. Let me just look through the comments, make sure I didn't miss none. If not, I'm gonna close it out in just a second. Let me see. I read January 4th is mandatory. Oh, for what country or what for what country? Because I know a man in China, I know a brother in Canada that actually he was recently baptized, and he was telling me too that the restrictions over there are pretty crazy. Then I know a couple sisters in Australia and a brother in Australia, and they said the same thing. It's getting crazy over there. They've been on full lockdown for like almost 2 years already. Keep that in mind, right? But it's getting even worse over there. What country was that in that you saw January 4th? But these are all just signs of the times, and this is just showing us that we need to be on the ball with it, right? We need to be on the ball. I'm in the U.S. Oh, so you saw mandatory for what? For us, which state or what in the U.S.? I know it's not for the whole thing, right? I don't think I missed any. Okay, Khan. So the brother, that's the question. I knew there was a question. What's the best way to sisters? I'm assuming you mean, yeah, Khan. Sorry, to meet sisters. I know I asked before. Some brothers say online. So, okay, Pennsylvania. The ox said. So yeah, the best way to meet sisters is to get yourself in order first, Doc. That's what I would say. And not even just personally to you. I'm saying in general for everybody. Get yourself in order, get some precepts under your belt. Like I said, do what you need to do. Delight yourself in Yahweh, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Right? He's gonna line up the circumstances for you. Now, at the same time, I will say, when you're online, you be very careful, right? I've heard of some crazy stuff about sisters meeting brothers, brothers meeting sisters, and things don't go the way they're supposed to according to the word. Let's just say that, right? The brother said Pennsylvania. So, Khan, there's a lot of states that are getting real, for lack of a better term, they're getting real communist, right? Washington State, and of course DC, New York, Pennsylvania, all of these, California, all of these states that are mandating things. It's getting real crazy real quick. And to me, I mean, it's a beautiful thing because the Most High, it's like it says, right? It's like the scriptures say, things are going to get worse and worse until the end of it, and then it'll get better in the kingdom. Most High willing, we get to be a part of that. But yeah, I say bring on the man. I want the mandatory inoculation, right? I want that already. Not saying I'm desiring the day of the Most High, but I just like seeing these prophecies and seeing Babylon fall. That should bring joy to your heart. Being able to see Babylon fall in front of your eyes, right? As a matter of fact, let's finish with that. Let's go to Matthew 13. Matthew 13. Khan says that the sis said catfish. Khan, that sort of thing, right? I've heard of that. I've heard of not personally, but I've heard of certain brothers saying, or sisters saying people getting robbed and things of that nature. It's crazy. It's crazy. Never go and meet somebody you met online by yourself. I'll say that for sure. So I'm gonna start in there's Matthew chapter 13, and I'm gonna start on 15. Right? Or no, I'm gonna start on 13. And we'll go ahead and finish it off with this. This is Matthew 13 and 13. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. Right? So Yahweh was saying, I'm speaking in parables because basically it's not for everybody. Right? At the beginning in verse 9, he said, who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Right? He always spoke in parables because it's not given to everybody to understand. The water. So the brother posted it up. If you could go all the way to 17, Baba Kashaw. The water. So they were asking him why he's speaking in parables. Why are you speaking in parables, Yahushai? Because the scriptures say he spoke in parables. Without a parable spake he not. Without a parable spake he not. So they were asking him, why are you speaking in parables, Yahushai? People can't understand. And he was saying it's not given to them to understand. Right? Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, by hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. People are hearing the word and they don't understand. They need to repent. People are hearing these things that we're speaking. Hey, you need to get married. These things are coming, and they don't understand. People are seeing these prophecies coming to pass, and they don't realize, damn, I really should get ready. Damn, I really should repent. I should choose this day who I'm going to serve, right? Verse 15, for this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, right? People's hearts are waxed gross. It's like in Matthew 24 and 12, it says that they have waxed cold. Their love has waxed cold. What is your love? Keeping the commandments, right? People are not keeping the commandments no more. It waxed cold. Their hearts are waxed gross. They're not keeping the commandments. They're not doing what the word says to do, right? And therefore punishments come upon them. Curses come upon them. And what do these curses and punishments do to them? They dole them out. They wear them down, right? Their ears are dull of hearing. They've been worn down. Now they can't hear and understand these things and apply them. And their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their hearts and should be converted, and I should heal them. Right? They don't understand these things that are coming to pass because they're not following the word in the first place. Right? They don't understand with their hearts. Their hearts have waxed cold and gross against the Most High. So they can't understand and they can't be converted. How do you be converted? By applying these scriptures, right? One example I could think of is, man, I know brothers and sisters, so-called brothers and sisters, they've been so-called in the truth for years, but they ain't even got fringes. Simplest of things, right? You can't be converted until you start applying these things. And I should heal them. And guess what? When you start applying and you really convert your heart and start applying these scriptures and the law, statutes, commandments, and precepts, you're going to start healing yourself, your mind, your spirit, your body, your soul. 16, but blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. If you can understand the times we're living in, if you understand, you need to prepare, right? If you understand, you need to get your house in order, right? Get covered, get protection, get whatever it is you need to get. That's a blessing. You can understand, you need to repent today, right? You can hear these things and apply them. Then you're blessed, right? Verse 17. For verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. So the times we're living in right now, if you could see that Babylon 2.0, the daughter of Babylon, is coming to an abrupt finish, and the kingdom is coming, it's all but here, then that should motivate you to do the works of the Most High and to put yourself in the best position possible to be saved, right? Which, Most High willing, is what we'll all get to be a part of, right? We all get to make it to the kingdom, and that's why we say we're the hopeful elect, right? So with that, I'll say shalom, shalom, shalom to all the brothers and sisters that tuned in, and I hope y'all are staying in the spirit. Keep enduring. Do whatever you can. If you're not married, it may not be for you, right? But for the majority of people, it is, right? For you sisters with children especially, I would say get covered, get baptized, and repent of your sins today. Choose to serve the Most High today, right? So all praise to the Most High, Yahweh B'Hashem HaMashiach Yahweh Shai. Shalom.